Hello and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. There's all kinds of family. We chose this one. This is episode 82, Fast 5, Lap 6. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe 2, and this episode is brought to you by Teradyne Armored Vehicles Gurkha. Teradyne Armored Vehicles Gurkha is a tactical armored vehicle built by Ontario-based Teradyne Armored Vehicles, Inc. The Gurkha is available in 3 different variants. Thank you, Gurkha.
Thank you, Gurkha. That is not at all what I thought Gurkha was going to be spelled like, but I guess I should have known with the Gurkha just sitting in my driveway right now.
Did you see where the box came from? Pretty interesting.
Brazil?
Canada. They're
Canadian.
Well,
you did mention Canada in that write-up, so I guess I should have expected Canada.
I said Ontario. There could have been multiple Ontarios, but yeah.
Are there?
I feel like there's an Ontario somewhere. There's a couple Ontarios. There's one in
But
America.
we all know the Ontario. And speaking of Ontario, extracurricular activities. I did not mention this on the previous versions, but my stronghold in Risk was in Canada, and I've got big Risk update, Joe.
What?
I won.
Lost? You won? Nice. Congrats.
I was going to message you, like, when it happened, I was just going to be like, hey, Risk. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm going to wait 2 days, and I'm going to tell you on the podcast. Yeah, we played on Monday night.
Okay.
So I guess this is last Monday, as you're hearing this. Yeah, I knocked out all 3 opponents who were left in 3 consecutive turns, and I just steamrolled everybody. Because the way that Risk works is, like, you get bonus cards. Every time you take a territory, you get a card. And if you turn in 3 cards of a set, you then get extra bonus armies. But when you knock someone out, you get all their cards. And so that's the biggest turning point, because then you just, like, you're much closer to a set. And so I knocked out a guy, got his cards turned into a thing, knocked out another guy, got his cards turned into a thing, and then steamrolled my way all the way from Asia to North America the long way around. And yeah, 3 turns in a row, just knocked everybody out. And so we're going to play again tomorrow night, starting a new game tomorrow night. But
that's cool.
Right now, riding high. But yeah, my stronghold, my fortified line of defense was in the 3 Canadian provinces that border America. So when you said Ontario, prompted me in Risk. I was like, this is, North American conquer right there.
The classic Ontario hold right there.
Well, actually, I think it's Ontario. Yeah, it's definitely Ontario. They did so much damage. I mean, it's all luck-based. It's all just rolling dice and everything. But, like, they were so good. Like, they did so much in terms of both defense and attack that, like, it's really because of Ontario that I won. So, shout out Ontario. You had no idea.
You had Gurkhas.
I know, truly. I mean, this is the time of cannons and horses and whatever, but also, maybe I had Gurkhas. Maybe that's why I was able to steamroll the entire globe like that.
If you would have had a motorized vehicle back then, you would have crushed.
I guess so. But, Joe, before we go any further into my Risk game, which there's nothing more to say, extracurricular activities, what have you been up to since we recorded on Sunday, our Nas Boost number 3? Anything of importance?
No. What did we do? We bought some mini Clue. We bought a mini game of Clue.
What's a mini game? Just like a small board?
Yeah, apparently, like, just Dollar General has these, like, very small travel size ones.
Okay.
And it, like, folds into itself, and, like, all the pieces are very tiny. And I'm kind of infatuated by how small the board is. So, yeah, It's just, like, very cute. We played some Clue, and that was about it. Connect 4. I got a mini travel Connect 4, which is also really cool. You stack the chips in the side of it, and they, like, lock in. The board, like, folds up, and then you can, like, unfold it. It's, like, maybe as big as, like, an iPad, like an iPad mini.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah.
And it, like, folds up, so it, like, it's not, like, flat, but it's, like, flatter than having this huge, giant fucking board, right? So.
Sure, absolutely.
That was it. That's all I've been up to.
What have I done since I started a new video game called Control, which Chris Podcast loved. This company, Remedy. I like it so far. I'm only a couple hours in. This company, Remedy, made maybe my favorite Xbox 360 game, which was Alan Wake. And then they made a game on Xbox One called Quantum Break that I really loved. And this is like a very X-Files,
I remember Quantum
Twin
Break.
Peaks.
What was that about?
What it did really well, sort of uniquely, and this does too, is it really kind of combines like acting, like mocap acting with gameplay. Like a lot of games are like cinematic, but they don't really have great gameplay. This sort of balanced both in a way.
Oh, cool.
Quantum Break, let's see here.
People
Science
loved
fiction,
it.
action, adventure, third-person shooter. Granted time manipulation powers after a failed time machine experiment as he comes into contact with former friend over how to deal with an apocalyptic end of time. Yeah, so it's about like manipulating time to, save the world. And this is kind of X-Files-y, kind of Twin Peaks-y, the game called Control, which came out last year, which I was very excited about, and then I just never got to it.
Yeah.
But they just updated it. They just sent out a new update, and there's an expansion pack that's out, although not out on Xbox yet. I think it's coming out in June. But I started that over the weekend, so I'm going to play a little bit more probably this upcoming weekend.
Nice.
And then anything else? Risk. And then Mike and I recorded a cruise club for Jack Reacher.
Nice.
Set in your hometown of Pittsburgh.
It was. I think I've actually taken you to the breakfast spot that it was shot at, right?
Maybe. I know that your review of Cruise Club on Apple Podcasts, by the way, please leave a review of Too Fast, Too Forever. Thank you so much. But your review of Cruise Club on Apple Podcasts is that you sat at the same booth or the booth next to where Tom Cruise sat. So I don't know. I mean, maybe? I don't know that you really took me to breakfast places in Pittsburgh, but maybe you did.
It's downtown. It's in the Strip District. It's called DeLuca's. It's like my favorite breakfast place downtown. Okay. And there's like a plaque on the one thing, and it says like, "This is the booth Tom Cruise sat at during the filming of the movie One Shot."
Yeah, because One Shot was the original name, yeah.
Exactly. I love their French toast. They do French toast with Italian bread. The same Italian bread that they make permane sandwiches out of.
Oh, okay.
So they take that and they make French toast out of that, and it's like top tier.
Now, how does that compare to? I'm not able to pull the name right now, but
what?
The place near where you live, where we go every time I come up there. How is it compared to that?
This is like a real diner. It was actually on Man vs. Food too. The diner in Jack Reacher. I think it's a different thing, right? Because we go to like the breakfast sandwich place, which actually we found. You know how the breakfast sandwich place we go to is called Ray and Mike's?
Yes. Oh, actually, yeah. Okay, because so I was just trying to Google breakfast sandwich near New Haven, Connecticut, and I couldn't find it. And then I just added the words tax evasion, and it's like, oh, Ray and Mike's. I was like, there we go. Yeah. So it's my slam dunk way to find the place. So yes, but yeah, Ray and Mike's.
So Ray and Mike's was Ray and Mike. One of them like stayed at Ray and Mike's, and the other one opened another place down the street. Because typical, way these things go, that like these guys open up a place and one of them breaks off for who knows what reason and just opens a place exactly like it down the street. And so we tried the other place the other day, and it's also very good. It's like a little bit different. It's like, this is new, and it used to be somewhere else, and then it moved closer to Ray and Mike's, which is also weird. Like, they're literally like 3 minutes down the street from each other on different sides of the street now.
Very cool. I mean, weird, but cool.
I mean, it's a common thing. Like,
yeah.
I know a bunch of people that have done this with their businesses. Where
it just feels weird that it's so close, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like people will open like a business with their cousin and then like get into a fight with them, and then like
I'll show you.
Yeah, open the same business down the street.
Yeah.
And like they constantly just are like angry at each other.
Yep. And I don't think I've done anything else. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? But that's enough extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
We do have a Patreon page here on the show if you want to support the show, toofast2forever.com. Shout out to Cassie Wilson, Jake Freer, Ben Milliman, Nick Barris, Alex Ellen, and Justin Kleinman for supporting us over there. Thank you all so very much. If you don't want to support us, if you don't have money to support us, please, I'm going to keep saying it. I'm going to keep saying it until we get one more. As soon as we get one more, I'll stop. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. Still 21 ratings, all 5 stars. No new reviews, but please do us a solid. Leave a good review.
We'd appreciate it, and it costs nothing besides 3 seconds of your time. And trust me, I think that everybody has 3 seconds right now.
Nothing but time, 10-second car. I mean, like, you could do this 3 times in the time it takes Dom to race a quarter mile, and then still have an extra second.
You could do it 700 times in the time it takes to get onto the plane in the next movie.
Very, very true. There was, I was, past guest of this show, Walt Hickey.
Yes.
He sent out his newsletter every day, Numlock News, and there was a very funny thing in here, because I caught up on, basically about a week and a half today, and it just reminded me of you saying, like a 700 second or whatever, 700 times or whatever, but he said that they found a rock of amber that has been found containing 2 41-million-year-old flies frozen in the act of mating. But what I thought was funny is that he called it a 14.96 billion night stand, which I just think is a very funny, way of rephrasing 41 million years. A 14.96 billion night stand.
Yeah.
So you just reminded me like that. It was very cool. I highly recommend numlock.news.
I think it's a lot of fun. I like Numlock News. I agree with you.
Joe, we have 2 emails today and one other sort of email update. I will say, and this serves as a reminder because we don't mention it a lot, but I got an email from YouTube saying we have 500 subscribers on YouTube.
Damn.
I mean, most of those are robots, I think. I'm
sure that a lot of them are robots.
I don't understand what happens. It seems like people love Tokyo Drift. I don't know if Tokyo Drift has some kind of and it's all comments not in English, and I don't know if there's some kind of weird, anything negative, not anything like...
What language are they in?
I have no idea.
Is it like an Arabic language, or is it using Roman characters?
Yes, but it looks like maybe, and this is just a guess. It might like something like Thai, possibly like Asian,
Okay.
but not Asian characters. Like I don't.
Okay.
It's very strange. But if you'd rather listen to the show or watch the show, even though it's just still art, youtube.com/too fast too forever. All episodes are up there. So if you want to do it there, you can do it there. No harm, no foul if you don't want to do it there. But everything's there if you want it. Just more places you can listen. And then we have 2 emails today, Joe. First up from Jenny McMullen, subject line correction.
Oh, what's up, Jenny? How are you doing?
She says, "Hi guys, I'm having trouble keeping up with you. I'm still listening to episode 77, having finished 75 and 76 while commuting to work last week. That's right, not all of your listeners aren't working or quarantined."
Yeah, I'm still going to work, man. I feel you, Jenny. Hang in there. Stay safe, please.
She says, "I'm fortunate to work for a trucking company that works primarily in the cardboard industry, transporting used cardboard to mills to recycle into rolls of new cardboard we haul to box plants, and
That's
then we
cool.
deliver the new boxes to customers, which keeps the supply chain going to grocery stores and other businesses."
So you're essential.
She says the next line is, "We qualify as an essential business and all of our employees have official documents saying so. I work in a fairly small office, 8 people, where we're practicing social distancing and not letting anyone in unless absolutely necessary. As long as the trucks keep going, so does the paperwork, which I do for several locations." She says, "I'm doing my part to be safe by not going anywhere but home. Smart. Stay home, stay
Yeah.
safe, stay sanitized.
Amen.
My husband does the shopping for necessities and is also practicing social distancing. We're in Oregon. They've been a shelter-in-place state since mid-March, which I've been talking to Aislinn, past guest Aislinn Addington, about, because she lives in Oregon as well. So I've been hearing about that,
Cool.
which is the last time I visited a store. I sometimes wish I could stay home like, quote, everyone else, but weekends are pretty boring, so I'm probably better off working, and it's nice to not have to worry about my income. It'd be
True.
worse if I wasn't working, because I can only listen to you guys while driving. I can listen to some other podcasts while working, but I hardly ever listen to them at home." Well, I mean, wherever you have the time to listen to us,
We appreciate it. I get that it's more of like a working slash driving type situation as opposed to, I don't know, like I listen to them at work, and like sometimes if like Rachel and I are cooking, I'll like put on, like if you're like, oh, I just finished editing
Yep.
the newest one, I'll put it on. But like I can't like sit there and like focus on it, right? Like it needs
right.
to
Well,
be
you
like
also you don't have to.
true. Yeah.
I mean, you could, but you don't have to. I mean, so that's the thing that I was reading a thing, and we're doing extra episodes just because you and I have more time to do, and I feel like for or more time
And
to
why
just do
not?
things.
Yeah.
And I feel like for people who want more entertainment, or if this qualifies as entertainment, we're putting it out there. But I was reading that like because people aren't commuting as much, or most people, not all people, but most people aren't commuting, that podcast consumption is actually down. But
Yep.
then as the day goes on, it goes up or whatever. But
It was in the sense that like artists are hurting, and not only are they hurting from like not being able to tour, but also nobody's streaming music.
Yep.
Because everybody's at home, so they're all watching Netflix as opposed to like listening to Spotify at work. They're all like watching Netflix or TV, right? So,
right. And so, I mean, we might be putting some people kind of behind the 8 ball in terms of getting backlogged on episodes. And, like,
You're not really missing
take your
much,
time.
though.
Yeah, well, yeah, that, number one. But number two, take your time to catch up, whatever. Like, so Jenny and Justin, I know that they've both said that they're falling a little bit behind. But, we'll slow down when things get back to normal, or
True.
we'll just slow down before that, or whatever. It's all timeless. It's all nonsense. Just, catch up when you want. Pop in here or there.
Yeah, shoot us an email, tell us you're doing good. Glad to hear
Exactly.
Jenny's safe and doing okay.
She finishes her email. "Funny story, back in August, I was stuck in a traffic jam and concentrating on traffic while you played the minute. So when they're racing and I looked around to see where the noises were coming from, when I realized it was in my own car. It also kind of happened again last week, but I was paying more attention this time. Really enjoyed the last 2 episodes, so keep cranking them out and I'll keep listening. I've got nothing but time for 10 hours a week on I-5. Later, Jenny."
Well, thank you for writing in, Jenny. We appreciate it.
I do like that it seems like this is now across the board, that we've heard from Haley, we've heard from Jenny, we've heard from other people, Justin maybe too, that like the minute is kind of messing with them a little bit, which I think
In the
is very
car.
funny and very cool.
Yeah, because I don't listen in the car, right? Like I listen to like classic rock radio in the car. So like I've never listened to the podcast. Well, maybe like once with you.
When we went to the Mets game, we listened to the radio, but like
Yeah.
that wasn't. I think that was pre-minute.
Yeah,
maybe.
true.
Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know when we started the minute. I do want to say, when I walk around town, I listen to podcasts in my headphones, and I have like good headphones, like over-the-ear headphones. They're not great, but they're like
Yeah.
$150 that I got on sale or whatever. They're like the Bose Quiet Comfort, I think, or whatever. I don't
Cool.
know. Like the reason I mentioned the slight humble brag that I got on sale when they were on Amazon Prime Day, but like they have better sort of like we were talking about last minute, right? Where there's like the music in the left channel and the music in the right channel.
Yes,
There's more
tracking.
spatial audio in these headphones than I'm used to. And so when I'm listening to podcasts, especially ones that are mixed and layered and edited well, I like think that I hear things like I turn my head and there's nothing there. It's like, oh, it was just in my right ear. And like so I
Like
get it. Like
somebody
I'm
was like
not
shuffling a paper on the right
yes.
side and it tracked.
Or it's like somebody walking by or it's like a car or something and I look and then it's not there. So I'm not getting the same experience while driving, but I do think that I'm right there with Jenny and with Haley and with whoever that it's still throwing me off thinking that a podcast thing is in real life just because of the way that it's all mixed together. So I'm right
Yeah,
there with you.
that's crazy.
All right. And we have one more email. So thank you, Jenny, for writing in.
Yeah, glad you're safe. Glad
Yes,
you're still
glad you're
working.
safe.
That's awesome.
So we have from Wes, subject line, Bloodshot and the Hollywood Knights. What up, fam?
What up, Wes? How's it going?
Says, I've already talked to you about it, but somehow in this time of pandemic and shelter in place, I'm actually way busier than normal.
He
so
is.
There's a
Another essential worker.
exactly. I'm trying to stay involved in the premier Fast and Furious podcast, so I don't know if this will be in time for the next episode, but it'll get there eventually. I just have a few things to jot down. I just have a few minutes to jot down a few things.
Okay. What's up,
Because I think
Wes?
you mentioned one of the more recent minute questions being about what movie they're watching at Dom's house. I was going to suggest maybe picking a different question, just because I know when we or our friends do themed quizzes, one of the things we hate most is when there are questions that you can't know just from consuming whatever the media is. Maybe you just recognize the movie if you've seen it before, but if you haven't watched the commentary or looked at IMDb, you would have no idea what the movie they're watching is because they never directly reference the title or show it on screen.
That's
So that's just
true.
my 2 cents.
That's fair. He makes a fair point.
We might need to come down one side of the fence or the other, Joe. Like, are we doing a quiz about the Fast and the Furious? Or are we doing a quiz that's kind of in conjunction with Too Fast, Too Forever? Because we've talked about that movie a couple episodes, right? And we've talked about it specifically when we're talking about that minute. And I think if it's framing it as a way to, like, listen to the podcast.
I think that it kind of is, and I think that it's the real cornerstone of this is that the quiz is going to be the premier Fast and the Furious quiz for anybody that's a super fan.
Right.
I get Wes's point. I do get it, and it's a little unfair. It's meant to be very difficult, and it's meant to be like side by side with the podcast, right? So,
But ask any watcher, any real watcher, and they'll know. Doesn't matter whether it's Bruce Lee or Enter the Dragon. Movie's a movie.
movies, make your own damn popcorn.
As I mentioned before, he goes on, I liked Bloodshot fine, but I think you're right about a sequel potentially being more fun. I did like the whole twist about the false memories, and I like the characters, just not the overall execution of the movie.
That's fair.
That's the thing, and like this is something I said about, like I didn't spoil it, but about Sonic the Hedgehog when I saw that movie, like...
I loved Sonic. We just watched it the other day too, and I really liked
really?
it. But you're right. What?
You loved it?
I did. I found it like very enjoyable. Like it again. Like I don't look for much in movies, right? It was entertaining. Like I'm not like looking at it like, is this film? Like, will I watch Sonic again?
I mean,
soon?
I'm not looking for that either, but I just wanted to be, like, I just need a little bit more. But it's the same thing, like, about Sonic that it is about Bloodshot, where, like, I'm more excited for the sequel than I am for the original, but also at the same time, you kind of have to keep in mind, if the original is just okay to fine, is the sequel going to be that much better? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you almost have to expect kind of a regression to the mean, but at the same time, I would watch a Sonic 2, I would watch a Bloodshot 2. Who knows?
Yeah, that's the main thing that we were saying. In a time of quarantine, like, these aren't movies. Like, if I would have seen either of those movies, like, opening night in the theater, pre-ordered tickets to, I probably wouldn't have been super excited about them. But watching them now, they just came out of the theaters, and I get to see them at home. Awesome.
Yeah, I get it. Wes says, Joey, I'm not a baseball fan, but I love the idea of setting up your fantasy league in a game and running it as a simulated season. Oh, I have an update. So I think I told you this, but I recreated once again the entire league because I created each of our teams as custom teams.
Yeah.
So it's something that's brand new to the MLB 20 of the show, which is super cool. And it took me a very long time, but I'm so proud of it. So if you go on twitter.com/theseptub, TheSeptub. I shared all the jerseys there, all the logos there, and I'm doing screenshots just because the PS4 has like a share to Twitter direct link functionality.
Yeah.
So I'm doing like box scores there too. It's very cool. Like I'm very happy with how it is. Everybody's got a custom team, custom logos, or not custom stadiums, but like everybody can play like in classic stadiums or fake stadiums or whatever. So we started again. So this is officially, we are underway. My team lost its first game last night, so
Oh.
against a computer team, like not even a good team. And
Oh, God.
what's even more annoying is that when we did it the last time, when I thought we were going to keep that one before I remade it with actual teams, with like our fake teams or whatever.
Yeah.
The first game I won 2-1, and last night I lost 7-4. Like my pitcher just got rocked. But it's 162 games. I'm gonna come back. It's just at the end of the game, end of the day, I think I streamed like 5 or 6 games yesterday, and like everybody won except for me, and I was like, God damn! Like come on, like give me the benefit of the doubt that I was the one. Not that I'm asking for a lot here, but I put all the effort in terms of making the teams.
Yeah, I know.
Give me like a ceremonial first win, but nope.
No, you just got slighted. I mean, it's baseball, so
It's true. There's a lot more to come, but
Yeah.
So I'm also streaming everything at twitch.tv/soul_popped. That link's on the Twitter too. If anybody cares, I don't think anybody cares, but I think it's also a weird, cool thing, and now it's even more niche and weird and specific and better, I think. As opposed to just like me being the Diamondbacks for no reason, I'm actually now Uncle Juice, which I think is pretty cool.
yeah, it is. It is really cool, and the logos turned out really good. I saw them. I thought they were really fun. So
Cool, yeah.
I'm excited
And
for
my friend Matt, who's in our league, who created the art for this page, for this podcast, he did the color mock-ups, like sort of the aesthetics, like the color palettes for each team. And so some people changed some of those, but basically a lot of the art that, like the way that the colors kind of jive together, he did. So I think that all turned out really well too. So yeah, twitter.com/theseptub if you want to follow along, or just check out the logos. Either way.
yeah, it's very cool.
Wes says, I was talking to my mom about how NASCAR and probably other racing sports have been airing their drivers competing in racing games, and this whole pandemic will hopefully elevate esports in America. Joe, I don't know if you heard, but
What?
one NASCAR driver rage quit a game and lost a sponsor because of it.
Did he like melt down, or did he like?
I think he just got frustrated that he was losing or whatever and quit, and like a sponsor dropped him, I guess, because I don't know. I didn't read the story, but I just thought that was funny. Like, just, even something that doesn't feel like it's like real, like it's just a video game, like they're streaming a video game, like he lost money because of it. So like, hey man,
Wow.
just weird.
That's rough. That's a rough day. Can you imagine? You're just like, I'm sick of this shit, and you just like I'm turning off it, I'm unplugging it, and you just like unplug it, and the sponsor's like, we don't like quitters in NASCAR.
Yeah.
Just
I guess so.
wrecks your day.
We've talked about how I think like there's the NBA 2K tournament, and like we've talked about how like NHL like teams are streaming their EA things,
Yeah.
and FIFA players are streaming, and like everybody's streaming, and I think I'm still trying to win over our fantasy baseball league that like there's a real split. Like most people don't understand, or they understand but don't like esports, and there's a couple people. Like,
I'm not a big
basically,
fan.
Are you against them, or just like it's not for me? Because like some people are just like,
It's not
this
for
is
me.
stupid.
I don't think that it's stupid. I think that we have to segregate the fact that they're not an athletic sport. They're like a fun team game. I would never want them to like join the Olympics.
Do you have a problem with esports, the phrase?
No, I mean, if you want to call it that, but like, because I don't care, and I'm like, it's not a real sport.
Do you consider like bowling and pool sports, or are they games?
We talk about this a lot. I've had this conversation with Rachel, because Rachel was a competitive dancer, and she says that's a sport, and I say, like, you're getting close, but you can't keep score. You're very, very close.
Wait, she was a competitive dancer and she stayed up to see High School Musical live the first night it aired?
I know, right? The things that I want is like athleticism, teams, and score. If you can keep score and your a team and it's
so
athletic,
do you think NASCAR is a sport?
No, I don't think car racing. I think it's not really a sport to me. It's like car racing. It's its own thing. Like now, like javelin, shot put, those can be sports. Like the triathlon, that can be a sport to me.
I feel like you're all over the place.
I know,
Like, I get
yeah.
where you're coming from, but I feel like it's not. It's kind of ill-defined.
It is. No, I have no rigid standards to it. It's just all my opinion.
Just perception.
It's just perception on it. Yeah, it's not like I have like hard and fast rules that like this is when I call, like this is the line that I draw. And I'm like, no, it's like, I think about each thing individually.
But you don't think any like, for instance, you don't think any less of NASCAR because you don't consider it a sport. You just wouldn't say it's a sport.
Yeah, I'm like, it's not for me. So like, I'm
So
not
it's just
gonna
a classification thing.
Yeah, it's just syntax. That's what I'm focused on. And like,
And I mean, to that end, they do call them the Olympic Games. They don't call them the Olympic sports.
True.
So
that's very, very true.
In that regard, esports would make sense if they want to do an Olympic game in terms of the video game, in terms of the digital side of things.
Yeah, it's weird. I like I said, I don't mind it. A lot of my friends are really into it. They like, love watching kids play on Twitch. That part I won't understand, but I'm not anti it either. It's just not for me. So
I think that's the thing. It's like the generational divide, just like between boomers and us. It's the same thing as like us and whatever the
Gen Z.
Yeah, it's like I'm much in terms of this one thing alone, I'm much closer to them than I think most other people our age because like I do enjoy watching people on Twitch. Like I don't watch every night. I don't there's not particular streamers that I'm like, oh, I need to like there's certain times where I've been like, oh, this guy's going live, I'm going to watch or have it on the background or whatever.
It's
But
cool.
that's few and far between. Like I get the like I love watching things on YouTube. I don't do it a lot, but I understand why people would, and I do sometimes. But I feel like there's a lot of people our age who are just like, wait, I don't understand. Like when I said yesterday in our thread that like Ninja, do you know Ninja? Have you heard of Ninja?
Yeah, he's buddies with Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yes. Okay. So Ninja makes like 500K a month, and he like my friend lost his mind, and I was like, but like
But so do the Kardashians, bro. Like, it's the
that's
same
somebody
shit.
else brought that up. Like just yeah, if you can hustle, if you can make the money, because like to me, like the point I was trying to make, and this didn't really go over well, is I was like, esports is essentially like podcasting. Like the tech is democratized, anybody can do it. It's just about like the continuity of it all, of establishing an audience, of maintaining a brand essentially, and growing. And like you need a lucky break, but like there's so many people out there like us, but the aversion, like the esports, where like they want to do something, or maybe they're just having fun or whatever.
Yeah.
And like if it takes off, it takes off. Like if you're consistent and you're engaging and you're funny and whatever, and you're good at the game or good enough, like there's no downside, I don't think. And I don't think you should be angry. I mean, you can be frustrated that like it feels like you could be doing that, but the fact is you're not, right? So
Yeah, this is the same thing with like all these people like, oh, I get paid an abstract art painting. Then cool, go do
Yeah,
it. You know what I mean? Like, there's nobody stopping you from doing it. So like, don't be angry that this painting sold for $4 million because you
Right.
didn't do it. Like, I'm not mad at that. The thing that I do get upset about with the streamers though is that I feel like their target demographic is children, and I feel like they're taking money from children. And I think if you're directing products at children or entertainment, there need to be like some boundaries and stuff
But I
like
mean,
that.
I think that's also true of like every toy manufacturer too. Like their target
True.
is children, and like it's the same thing. It's like instead of kids saying like I want a Power Rangers toy, it's like Mom, I want $5 so I can support my favorite streamer on Twitch or on YouTube or whatever, right? So
Which
like
is just so weird. I know it's like a weird thing for my brain to understand, but
Yeah.
I agree. It's not like better or worse morally, but at
Right.
the same time it feels dirtier. It's like you're
Yeah.
like a fucking kiddie stripper or something.
Well, I
right?
also
Like,
said I tried to explain it as like it's cam girls without the sex, basically. Like it's
Yeah.
the same thing. And apparently, like sites like OnlyFans and whatever have like skyrocketed during the quarantine because people are like both in terms of like people selling themselves and also people subscribing because like everyone's horny. Just like in the Hollywood Nights, everyone is horny, and like people are just like, yes, here's $5, here's $10, whatever a month. Show me boobs, please. Even though like boobs are free everywhere.
I said that like 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like when this was first starting up, I was like, "Girls, now's your shot. Like, just make your OnlyFans now. Get in early, because
Yeah.
like we're all about to be home for weeks. Like, this is it, man."
Yeah. Wes says, we watched Onward the other day. I liked it a lot, but the whole time I kept thinking Chris Pratt is fine, but the character was made for Jack Black, which is something that Mike Manzi has been saying nonstop since he watched Onward. And so I texted that to him just now, and he said, LOL, yes. So he's right there with Wes.
So the Mikester agrees.
The Mikester agrees. Wes says, that's it for today. I look forward to the next episode, whenever or whatever that is. I can't even remember anymore. Until next time, stay furious.
Stay furious, Wes, and stay safe. I'm so proud of our Too Fast, Too Forever family here. That we're all still getting stuff done.
Wes is doing some like heavy, like in the face of danger, kind of, right? Like he's doing some.
Yeah, he's masked up, bro.
Yeah.
He is.
And that Jenny's basically keeping the country going. Like
We've talked
we
about
got
that.
some
Yeah,
heavy
she'll catch up.
hitters.
I don't know if we talked about it on that episode or like the next episodes where she was, that we were talking about like people like truck drivers and grocery store workers and stuff, and how much like they deserve applause for being the ones really keeping shit running. So yes, thank you, Jenny.
And that's all of the emails that we have today. If you want to email in family@cageclub.me, let us know what you're thinking. But Joe, on the streets, Fast and Furious news, is there anything that has come out since the last time we recorded?
Of Fast and Furious news?
Or adjacent or related? I feel like there was something. It wasn't something major. Like it wasn't something that we posted, but it's something that was just like, oh, like it wasn't big enough for even to stick in my brain. So I don't think it was anything important or anything actual,
No,
real, or
Hobbs and
whatever.
Shaw 2 confirmed. We got that. Fast 10 pushback. That was the last things that I remember.
Rock the vote if I'm going to go to Google News and see if Dwayne Johnson is running for president yet. Bernie today just dropped out of the race
I
for
know,
president,
I
so
was
I guess
gonna
it is
say
now
that.
it is now Biden's race to lose or to win. Let's see if
It
there's
is.
anything else. So the Rock president, there is nothing new other than some Bernie stuff that I guess uses the word rock, and then on Dwayne Johnson president, it does not seem like there's anything. He is not
Now's
so
his
far.
shot. He can dark horse this race.
I know. We talked about Mark Cuban wanting to do it. Like why not? Black Adam got pushed back. You got some time on your hands. campaign.
Can you imagine? I just really want The Rock to win, so like you could post pictures of him like doing the people's elbow, and the caption could just be like, "He's your president, though," and like
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like that would make me really, really happy.
We had the clues all along. We knew exactly what to expect.
Exactly.
We should have known that when he met with the Prime Minister of Israel that he was going to, people's elbow. Like, it just, it's...
Exactly.
He told us who he was. He showed us who he was in the ring.
Yeah, he did.
The final thing to do before we take a break and bring in our friend Roxana, who we met through Kate Hudson, fellow writer at Pajiba, to talk about Fast 5. We have the Fast and Furious Minute. I'm going to have to explain this after we hear the audio. But Minute 49, the title I have for now is Brian, the Terrible Improviser.
He moves like a cop.
Brian, this is one of those times when you need to be very clear about what you say. Not if you understand me.
Not!
Sit up. Tell me what the hell you're doing down here.
What I'm doing? Dom, I owe you a 10-second car. And what this is about race wars. I just went in there.
So do you know, like, can you guess why? I mean, I guess you can kind of guess why, but do you know, like, what the title refers to or what I'm thinking of with the title?
No idea.
On Comedy Bang Bang, which I listen to, which I love,
Okay.
Scott Aukerman, the host, interviews, like, comedians or actors or whoever, and then they bring on other comedians who play characters, and they just do, like, wild and crazy things, right?
Okay.
Scott makes fun of them a lot, his friends and whatever, because he'll ask a question and they don't, like, they're caught off guard or whatever. They haven't thought about that part of their character. And so they'll repeat the question to, like, buy themselves some time. So, like, he'll be like, and, like, and then what did you do? And they're like, and then what did I do? And he's like, yeah, like, feels like you're buying time right now. And so the reason that I named this as such is because Dom says, tell me what the hell you're doing here. And Brian just goes, what I'm doing here? It's like, just answer the question. Like, it feels like it's like he's making things up. And so I just thought of it, like, from the improv comedy, because he is improvising here. He's just a terrible improviser that he's like, what am I doing here? Yeah, what am I, like, okay, here's what I'm doing here. And, like, he's just repeating the same things, which I thought was very funny, that this thing that I hear all the time on another podcast basically came up in a completely different way, where it was like, oh.
Don't repeat the question back, just stutter.
Exactly. Yeah, just be like, you can respond in any other way, but the way he says it is like, oh, you clearly have no idea. Anyway, in this minute, Vince drags Brian's body down the alley to a gated-in area. Dom emerges from the shadows and interrogates Brian, and Brian tries to defend what he was doing inside Hector's automotive. So, Joe, what did you notice about this minute? This is not a hugely action-packed minute, but anything, initial thoughts, first thoughts, what did you notice about this minute?
I had something that I only learned this time. I was convinced Vince said he smells like a cop.
So, there's that. And then someone on Twitter who follows us, Savage Ones, I think is one of your friends.
Yeah, maybe it's Paul Cho.
He said he moves like a cop, but the script that I found online, which it sounds like, says he moans like a cop, which is a weird line.
Yeah, he moans like a cop. That's what I was saying. It's like, I always thought that it was like kind of mumbled, but I always thought that he said he smells like a cop. So yeah, it was like very confusing to me watching it this time.
I mean, they all have the same meaning, right?
He's saying he's a cop.
Yes,
so
exactly.
So yeah, but at the same time, like, I always thought that like he smells like sniff skanks kind of thing going on here. But no, he says he moves like a cop or moans like a cop. See, both of them are weird.
Yeah, I mean, moans is a weird thing, but it is the official. I think that is what it said. It's strange. I don't want to shoot my shot for the later in the episode, but there's a real distinct juxtaposition between the way that Vince treats Brian here and the way that Vince acts in Fast 5. Like, I feel like this minute, in conjunction with the movie that we're talking about tonight, is like a very strange, like, I'm glad that this, again, this is not exactly a very full flush minute, but comparing it to what we're about to talk about in the second half of the episode, I was drawing so many comparisons between Vince and Brian in this and Vince and Brian in Fast 5, and I thought time-wise worked out really well.
It lined up very, very well. I agree. It was nice to have watched the movie and see Vince in that, and then see Vince's like first skepticism of Brian side by side. So it was very interesting.
So there's not a ton of things here to notice because there's a lot of shadows. I guess the big question is, where are they? Are they on site still at Hector's? Are they...
I think they're around the back of Hector's.
Okay.
In Hector's fenced-in storage area. Because, like I have in the document, there's a lot of stuffs there. Some metal gas cans, there's oil drums, car hoods, doors, exhaust pieces. So it looks like, this is a place that Hector keeps, like, spare parts. Like, kind of his own little junkyard.
We don't have any way of knowing where, like, DT Precision Auto Body is in conjunction with Hector's, right? Because, like, they could be next door, they might not be anywhere near each other. Like, we don't have a way to gauge where they are. Is it? Do we?
I don't think so. Like, I didn't look at the maps to figure out where they are. I would imagine that they're not next to each other, because in the most non-racist way, I'm assuming that El Gato Negro is in a more Spanish part of town than just Dom Toretto's auto body.
Yeah, maybe. But also, he could, like, I feel like it...
It could be right next door. I'm saying that's fine.
We have a sense of the neighborhood.
It seems like a Spanish neighborhood.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that Dom's not there, right? So, I don't know.
I bet that it's probably close to where they were driving by and there was all the, like, arepas and burritos and stuff when they were, like, parking the car and stuff. Like, when he was hiding.
Yes. Yeah, oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. So, maybe similar, right?
Yeah, it should be, like, around that neighborhood. That's what I would assume it was.
I wish, and this might just be, like, it doesn't really matter where this takes place, but I wish for our sake here, for this particular use case, that we knew where he was, because it feels like they just drag him down to like this corner, like, of wherever, and like I want to know where it's taking place. But to your point, like, it might be just around the back, it could be next door, it could just be like
it's
some
around the
random
back
alley. But also, why is Dom standing in the shadows?
I don't know. They could have been following Brian. Dom's like peeking to see where he is. Vince goes and knocks him out, and then he's like, I'm gonna go get this fucker. I'm gonna stop him before he breaks into Hector's and fucks us all up. Knocks him out and brings him back to Dom.
Now here's a question. Do you think, is it possible, and we have no way of knowing either way, do you think that Vince and Dom were partying with Hector, and then they see the truck go by, or whatever, and then they go around to see what's up? Does it seem like Dom and Hector are gonna socialize outside of quote-unquote work, I guess, which is Race Wars?
I think that that's a possibility, but I think it's more likely that because Brian's starting to get close, starting to get close to Mia, Vince is suspicious that they just followed him one night. Or they could have been driving around the neighborhood or whatever and saw the truck and was like, what the fuck is this guy doing here? Is he partying with Hector?
I kind of want, like, do you know the play Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead?
No.
So they're two, like, background-ish characters from Hamlet. Okay. And there's a play that they wrote about, like, basically the story of Hamlet, I think, from the perspective of these two background characters. Like, I want a Rosencrantz and Guildenstern version of, like, what Vince is doing as Brian's doing all this. Because it feels like most of this movie, like, it's just Vince raging out and just, like, following...
Brooding.
Or, like, he's, like, it's before Facebook, but, like, going upstairs and, like, looking up Brian on Facebook or MySpace. He's just like, who's this fucking guy? Like, come on. Like, and then, like, him just following Brian around and whatever, and, like, just trying to, like, cyber stalking.
Entrap him.
Exactly. Entreason.
Yeah. Entreason. I said that, yes. What were we watching? We were watching something, and I was like, entreason. And he's like, you mean entrapment? I was just thinking about this the other day.
Wire. Also, by the way, The Wire is free on HBO Go right now for everybody. They dropped the paywall, so if you have not seen The Wire, watch The Wire. Also, I know that Jake... I don't know if Jake's been messaging you or the page or not, but Jake messaged me about he just finished The Wire. He thinks this is the best show of all time. I was like, I think it's Joe's favorite show of all time. It's definitely one of my favorite shows.
It's the best show of all time. I will never argue against that. I don't know if it's my favorite, but I will never argue against it. I think that it is the best show of all time, and I think best and favorite can be two different things. So
yeah. And he was very excited about the Stringer Bell connection there, too, because Idris in Hobbs and Shaw Brixton is, a pretty major character in The Wire. Shout out Jake for watching The Wire, for, chatting about that. I kind of want the alternate version of, like, what Vince is doing, because, like, it feels like he is obsessive about Brian, correctly so, but, like,
he's right,
because he's getting in with his crew, because he's earning Dom's trust, because he's earning Mia's affection, because he's essentially taking... Not really, but because he could perceive it as, like, taking Vince's part in the family, it feels like Vince is just following Brian around everywhere that he's going. But I also wonder, like, at what point does he get Dom involved? Because it almost feels like a boy who cried wolf, right? Because it's just like, oh, like, this guy's no good, Dom, this guy's no good. And Dom's like, just give him a chance, whatever. And then for him to actually get Dom out of the house that night, like, it feels like that's a big step. Like, he's just like, or maybe he sees Brian, like, maybe he's following Brian, sees him park, sees him break in, whatever. And then like, Dom, get down here.
That's true, too. It seems weird, but I think that, like, I think he could have been suspicious enough that, well, they all drive alone, though. So I think your second theory is a little bit better. That, like, he was following Brian around. He's like, Dom, get down here. Like, right behind Hector's. You gotta see what this fucker's doing.
I think we're basically in agreement that, like, Vince is following him to an obsessive level.
Yeah.
This is all Vince. This is all him just being like a madman, kind of.
Yeah, but Dom had Jesse look up Brian as soon as he heard about him, remember? Because he's like,
True.
Oh yeah, Mr. Spillner, Mr. Arizona. What about the time you did in Juvie? He looked you up already. You know what I mean? So, like, Dom could still be keeping tabs on him.
I do want to say, and I will say this in the back half, but, Fast 5 starts with a rehash of end of Fast and Furious 4, and Dom gets sent to Lompoc. And in this movie, like 20 minutes ago, we heard, I'll die before I go back there. Did 2 years in Lompoc, I'll die before I go back there. Doesn't look like Dom's about to kill himself on that bus. Like, it just seems like he's about to go back to Lompoc. So, like, man.
He didn't really fight his way out of court either, right? He said, like, he'd die before he goes back there. And he was like, I'll just get on this bus now.
Yeah. Anything else? I mean, you made a note of a bunch of different things in the alley and lot, but it just seems kind of like just outdoor garbage stuff, kind of.
It is outdoor garbage stuff. The only thing that I thought was cool was I learned when looking up metal gas cans that they are commonly referred to as jerry cans, and they were invented by the Germans. And
is jerry can a brand name, or is that just like is Jerry as in German?
No, I think it's a brand name. Shit, I need to open that thing.
So, like, I don't know. I feel like I've maybe said this to you before. I don't know if it was on a podcast or not. But when I was interning at a newspaper in college, when I was getting my journalism degree, that I am not using at all right now, the word dumpster is actually a brand. Dumpster could theoretically sue you if you say the dead body was found at a dumpster if it wasn't actually a dumpster brand dumpster. And so, like, it's the same thing like Kleenex for tissue. It's like, or tissue paper or whatever, facial tissue. Dumpster is the specific of like trash receptacle. And so that was like one of the weirdest like things that, not that I don't remember if I was writing about dumpsters, but it's the example that I remember hearing. Like, you have to be careful about things that, like, basically dumpster has become the vernacular. Like, I'm gonna Netflix something tonight. Well, I'm not watching something on Netflix. I'm just watching TV. But like,
I'm gonna Google it.
Or like how iPod was instead of MP3 player, whatever. Dumpster is the same thing for trash receptacle. It's just, I guess, jerry can. I don't know. Like, it could be the
jerry
style.
can is a term that was like defined in goods agreement, dangerous goods by road. Like, they literally call it a jerry can. So I think it might have been a brand, but I don't know where the word originated from. But it's now like, it is the vernacular to describe a metal container that is shaped like this behind Brian.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, Joe, the trivia question here, I have no idea. So I was thinking we could, if you didn't like the name of this minute, we could change it, He Moans Like a Cop. But I guess the trivia question could be, what does Brian do like a cop? It could be moans, it could be moves, it could be...
Smells. Looks. He looks like a cop, he moans like a cop, he moves like a cop, and he smells like a cop. Wow.
Perfect.
God damn, dude.
I mean, I guess they're all right. Okay, we could say, what does Vince say Brian does like a cop?
Yes.
Looks, moans, moves, smells.
Oh,
man,
God,
that's a tough one.
That's a tough one. That's a really, really tough question.
I do like that, not 20 minutes ago, Wes was like, you got to make things that are in the movie so people can understand. We're like, okay, fuck you. Like,
no, this is in the movie.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, okay, it's in the movie, but like,
it's a mumbled
word
line
that sounds like three other words that people don't like. Moans is like the least, like, whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like this is gonna be one that like is gettable, to Wes's point, very gettable, but like a lot of people are gonna get wrong. Like, it's gonna be like, I don't know. What? Moans?
Yeah. Like, he says he moans like a cop? Like, are you fucking kidding me? He's like, that's what it says, man.
I like seeing you, like, when we're in the minute, I like seeing you copy the question to ask your friends and see what they, I'm assuming that's what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool. And if you want to take the quiz, we are now up to 50 questions on the quiz, 49 minutes, but 50 questions. If you are on our Patreon page at toofast2forever.com, even for $1 a month, you get access to the quiz. So if you have not taken the quiz yet, if you have not taken the quiz since we rolled it out, maybe 25 or 30 questions in, go to toofast2forever.com, retake it, take it for the first time. let us know. I like getting those emails, like Google Forms, completion, submission, whatever email, like somebody new took your quiz, and I like seeing like, oh shit, they did pretty well.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Any other thoughts about the minute or anything else in the intro before we take a break and talk about Fast Five?
I feel like the next minute's going to begin in a different place almost immediately. I don't know if Brian says anything. No, he has to.
He's got to defend himself a little bit more, right?
But like, there's very little dialogue and happening in a full minute there for the amount that we've seen in other places. So,
and especially after like the last 2 minutes had no dialogue, this didn't really have dialogue either. Like it's been basically 3 minutes that are mostly quiet.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a break. Let's hear another word from Gurkha and bring in Roxana to talk about Fast Five.
Welcome back to Too Fast, Too Forever. This is episode number 82, Fast 5. This episode is brought to you by Pterodyne Armored Vehicles Gurkha. The name is an homage to the Gurkhas, Nepali soldiers who serve in the British Army and Indian Army, also the Nepalian Army.
Shout out Gurkha, indeed.
Yes, thank you, Gurkha.
So with us tonight, Joe, to talk about what I just tweeted on our Too Fast, Too Forever Twitter page is a perfect movie to talk about Fast Five. We have with us, let me take a step back. So one of the favorite people that we've ever had on this podcast who broke our brains, really, about the way to think about these movies was Kate Hudson, writer for Pajiba. You know, she and Brian Rodriguez, who's been on the show a lot, are going over all the Twilight movies over on High School Slumber Party. So I highly recommend you go listen to those. But when Kate was on, she was like, I have so many friends who love these movies and would love to talk to you. And so we have one of those friends tonight with us, a writer from Pajiba and from the AV Club. We have Roxana Hadadi. Hello, Roxana.
Yes, hello. Oh, that was such a nice introduction, and I'm probably just going to ruin it.
Oh, no. You've been
No.
talking for like 10 minutes now off mic. And I mean, unless you were just doing like the greatest acting job of all time and you're actually a terrible monster, it's going to be a wonderful episode.
I mean, where is my Oscar? Where is mine, and where is Vin Diesel's? Like,
I don't know. Again, to bring up Kate, because I hope that she listens to this and hope she has like the inflated ego that she, I guess, always carries around seemingly, because she does think that she's the coolest person in the world, which is, you know, not
She's
far
very
from
cool.
that. What was her favorite? Is it when somebody won an Oscar? She was talking about how Twilight is now like an Oscar, a franchise with an Oscar winner in it. So I don't know. She's got like weird Oscars on the brain too at all times, I think.
I'm actively shaking my head right now because she loves those movies so much, and I will never understand it. But her love for them is so pure
I
that
know.
Breaking
like,
Dawn
what am I?
Part 2 is
Right,
so
what am I
good.
going to say? You have bad taste? I can't say that. Like, that's
No.
terrible. No.
And we had guests on, was it This Lap, Joe? I guess, wait, did we talk to Mari and Nicole This Lap? Like, that feels like forever.
Yes,
That was
no, we
pre-corona.
did.
That was pre-coronavirus, which feels
It
like
was.
forever ago now, right?
Oh my God,
Yeah.
forever.
They were talking about they have what they call their trash pocket, which is not guilty
we love.
pleasures, but it's just things that like are objectively not great that they love that they don't
Because
feel
you're not
guilty
guilty about them.
Yes.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so I feel like one of the women on the show, Mari, was saying that, you know, these are kind of in her trash pocket, but like to Kate, Twilight movies are like, she knows they're not good. She's intelligent. Like she knows they're not like great cinema, but yet she loves them. And so they are in her trash pocket, even if she never has heard the phrase trash pocket before.
I think the entire 90s are in my trash pocket.
Mm,
Like
very
every,
cool. Yeah.
like Hackers, Pump Up the Volume. But I don't even consider those movies trash.
Oh,
They just were
Pump
so
Up the
formative.
Volume.
Yeah, it's the 30th anniversary of Pump Up the Volume this year. It's wild to think about.
When Brian covered that on his podcast with Mike, Mike was like really down on that movie, and I watched it and I was like, no, this movie is great. Like, what do you? And like, Brian had me on to give like a rebuttal about like why that movie is great, and I was like, no, Brian, I can't let you just like savage this movie, because Brian is like
Just ruin
the
it.
perfect kind of host where like he'll go along with like if somebody loves it, he'll go along with it. If somebody hates it, he'll go along with it. But I was like, no. We must defend this movie, and so he had me on as a rebuttal. So I perked up when you said Pump Up the Volume, because that is a very good movie.
Yeah, Pump Up the Volume fucks so hard. Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't get it. It's like if you told me Heathers was bad. Like, early era Christian Slater did not do any wrong. And current era Christian Slater doesn't either, so...
He's a national treasure. Is he American or is he
Truly.
Canadian?
Oh, I don't know. I always just assumed American, but I feel like he could be
He
Canadian
was born
because.
in New York, baby. He's one of us.
Oh, great, excellent.
Wonderful.
Never leave,
We've
bud.
reclaimed him. He is back to us.
That's fine.
Brief fear of Canadian descent there for 1 second, but he is back to America. Let's talk about these movies. So, Roxana, a couple quick questions off the top to sort of gauge your credentials.
Can I start with my new question?
Oh, okay.
Let's save the new question for the lightning round. I feel like it's a better fit in the lightning round.
No. Okay.
This is more about the franchise as a whole, and then
This
that
is
is a very
true.
hyper-specific question that I'm gonna have to.
Okay.
I'm gonna write down those answers anyway. So, like, I need to. That's a different part of the program.
Okay, fair. That's fine.
There's a new question, Roxana, that Joe is all excited about, and it is a crazy question. So we're gonna find out. We're going to find out, what it's all about when we get there in a second. So questions for you. When was the first time you saw Fast Five? Have you seen all the movies? I think you have. And I asked you this today, if you had time, to rank your movies. So when was the first time you saw these? Have you seen them all? And do you have rankings of the Fast movies?
Yes, I have. Well, I'm going to answer out of order, but no,
Totally
I'll
fine.
follow the format.
Doesn't matter.
First time I saw Fast Five was whenever the press screening was for the movie.
Ooh, you got to see it at the press screening?
Yeah, I
Ooh.
that's it's a weird thing to admit, but yes, I go to press screenings. Yes, so I saw it at the press screening. I sat next to my friend Julian, who I mentioned earlier, Julian Lytle, because he is my closest Fast and the Furious friend.
Family, not friend.
Yeah, you're right. And we just, it's always a very good time seeing a movie with him because he's a very unbridled movie watcher.
Okay.
So we like shove each other a lot and we just get really into it. So whenever we see movies together and they're a Fast and the Furious movie, I'm always very overjoyed because his reactions are so extra. So that's always something that I like. So I don't know,
awesome.
whenever, I guess a week before the movie came out. I have seen them all.
Well, I guess, okay, so here's a follow-up question then. What was the first one you saw? Have you been on board from the beginning?
I haven't seen them in the order that they came out. Like, I remember seeing one, and then I think I skipped two.
Just like Vin Diesel, you're tracking so far.
Right. I was like, I have to leave. And then I saw Tokyo Drift, and then I think I went back and watched two.
Okay.
And then after that, saw them all in sequential order.
Gotcha.
So 4, 5, 6, 7.
That's not too bad.
No.
Yeah. Hobbs
You skipped one that didn't really, like 2 and 3. You could have got away without seeing those. So like
yes and no, because I feel like two almost to me just feels like Fast and Furious trying to be a Michael Mann movie,
Okay.
and so there is part of that like weird attempt to be Miami Vice that I enjoy.
Mhm.
And then 3, like 3 has Han, and
Yeah.
so Sung Kang is so good that
Yeah.
like you couldn't skip 3 forever.
No, you can't. But we've been doing this new thing where when we watch them now and we introduce them to people, we watch them 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 3. So yeah.
And I will say right off the top here that I just messaged this to you on Facebook, Joe, but just finished the movie before we started recording because I watched most of it before we recorded the intro, and I cried at a new part today because this is now at least 3 different scenes where I've cried, and the time I cried this time was at the end when Giselle is on Han's lap, and he's
That
like,
gets me every time.
Madrid, and she says, I thought you wanted to go to Tokyo. He says, we'll get there. And I'm thinking, we will get there. We will. And now that we know that Han is still alive.
Oh, Giselle's totally alive.
I was just like, I cried out of the potential happiness that I will have if one day we find out that Giselle's still alive. Like, I was just so happy that
they both made it to Tokyo.
Like
right.
even back then, when they're still assuming, or maybe it's the longest long con of them all, that Han dies in 3, they bring him back because people love him, that for the brief thing in 4, and then in 5, maybe they know that he's not actually dead in 3. Maybe they know he's always going to be around. I don't know, but just the way that Han says, we will get there, because we've never seen them together in Tokyo. Like,
No.
I want so bad, more than anything in this Fastiverse, for them to be together in Tokyo. That's all I want.
And what I don't remember about Tokyo Drift is like, I remember him flirting with other girls and he's basically like sleeping his way through Tokyo. Or am I just assuming that? Because I remember he flirts with a lot of girls.
He has a lot of girls around.
Right. And I feel like he says he's like getting over breakup. Maybe. I just know that I watched Tokyo Drift recently because it was on TNT. It's always on TNT.
Mm-hmm.
And it blows my mind how they retconned these movies. Because 3, all of Han's dialogue in 3 makes sense after you see 5 and after you see 6. Like, I don't know how they did it, what kind of weird magician type shit was going on, but it fits. So I do feel like maybe if we do see Giselle alive, sorry to bring up my friend Julian again, but he has always said if you don't see a body, don't assume they're dead.
The Game of Thrones theory, yep.
Right. So, like, if Giselle is just also in Tokyo doing her own thing, or if they broke up when they got to Tokyo and we find out that she somehow has done something, I mean, a real mind blower would be if she is working with Charlize. I don't know. We got a lot of options.
Oh, well, so as Better Call Saul reaches its end game, and I don't know if you're watching that. I don't know if you're familiar with
I'm not caught up. I watched like 3 seasons.
You know how like the whole thing has basically been like Kim and Jimmy are together, and people are like, basically the show is now becoming what happens to Kim, because as we get closer to the end, we know that Gus and Mike and that whole side of things, like we know what Hermanos, Los Pollos Hermanos becomes, right? Because that's all Breaking Bad is about.
Mhm.
But the big question about that show now is like, what happens to Jimmy and Kim? Because in this next season and a half or whatever, we have to get to a point where, like, in all of Breaking Bad, we don't know where Kim is. And so now there's thinking, and now there's hope in my heart that she's still together, because I love Ray Seahorn so much that I want her to still be around in the time of Breaking Bad. We just don't know. So, like, I want, again, the same way, I want Giselle to be by Han's side through all this time, and we just don't know about it yet, but we will.
Yeah, we don't see like Jimmy with the girlfriend either. So yeah.
It's always just one of those things where it's so interesting to look at it just in a way like, how are you writing this backward?
Yeah.
Like, I'm very impressed, and I feel like for a lot of ways you can kind of be like, Fast and the Furious movies are ridiculous and they started out as a Point Break ripoff, and like whatever criticism you wanted to level at them, go for it. But there is something to be said for the way that they have somehow reverse engineered a franchise. That is mind blowing to me. Because I mean, I don't think you could have. Well, actually, we saw this with Warner Brothers and their attempt to do the DC universe. Is like, you can't start with the Groot movie and then unravel it. It doesn't really work like that. So the fact that they somehow have been able to do that is a little bit mind blowing.
And I feel like what's even more, like what makes the Han story even more special is that it feels like, and Joe and I make fun of this all the time, that in so many other opportunities where they have the opportunity to call back something else and they just don't, it makes the fact that they do this so well, like even more special. It's like, oh no, you do know these movies. Like, you could just reference this, or you could make a joke about that, and they don't. And like, you know, we're obsessive about this and we watch this all the time. The fact that, like you're saying, they were able to beautifully reverse engineer this narrative where it ends in 3 but then and almost starts in 5. It's like, how did you do this? And yet, like, it feels like in a lot of other times, like you're kind of on autopilot a little bit.
For sure. Yeah, it's like, I don't know how they reverse engineered it. I don't know how they like stopped and then started character arcs for people all over again. Like, it's been very efficiently done in a way I definitely could not have imagined when you saw the first Fast and the Furious, which is fun. Like, I love Point Break, and so like I'm fine with a Point Break copy. I never could have thought that all of this would span from that.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
And we are going minute by minute in the first movie right now as we're going to work our way through it eventually. And just like the weird, very, very small, very hyper-specific movie becomes this multi-billion-dollar global franchise that literally spans the globe, both in terms of audience reach and narrative. It's like, who could have seen it?
Right. And, you know, narrative in a way that I think actually does a service to the locations that the movies are in. Because, you know, like a lot, I mean, to be a blockbuster these days, it's just like globe hop wherever. I mean, you want to capture international market. And so a lot of times you're writing in locations to do that. And a lot of times I feel like it can feel very obvious and manufactured. But like Fast and Furious went to Brazil, felt like Brazil, went to Cuba, felt like Cuba, went to Tokyo, felt like Tokyo. Like, they somehow have managed to capture what is like the atmosphere of these places. To be fair, we're still seeing like a lot of like the bottom half of girls' butt cheeks, like in these club scenes. That is somehow universal across all these cultures, is like that bottom 2 inches of ass. But Cuba felt like Cuba, and I loved that they went to Cuba. So it's it's very interesting to see how it has felt very intentional, and that brings in audiences, that makes people want to see these movies and see where they're going to go next.
One of our fans, Justin, just wrote in and he sent us like the Ebert review of Tokyo Drift the other day, and that was actually like a point that he really like nailed home. He was like, yeah, like they're in Tokyo, but it doesn't like feel like they just went there for no reason. Like, he like really encapsulates like all of Tokyo and like uses the place that they are as the backdrop for the movie, and culturally and fashion wise and stuff like that, to where it's not just like, oh, they just went there to go there.
And there's always some American exceptionalism, because it's always that the Toretto family is the best, and Paul Walker,
And they always
when he was
speak
alive,
English,
R.I.P.
everybody.
Right, they always speak English. Like, for a long time, the Torettos were like ethnically ambiguous. So it was like, are you guys Italian? But you also speak Portuguese. Like, what is happening here? So of course, there's also that narrative. Like, I was actually struck watching Tokyo Drift, how much like the terrible bully crew is like very coded to be like sort of nationalist. So there are still things that, of course, it's like these are American movies and it's American muscle cars, and there's always going to be that element of it. But it never feels to me like cultural tourism. It actually feels more like thoughtful than that.
And the one thing, and I actually want to get your take on this because I think this is more of an insightful conversation. Like we keep kind of saying the same things about this sort of stuff over and over again, but we haven't really had this kind of deep conversation about it in a while. But the one shortcoming that we found that we keep bringing up, and no matter who you are, to an extent you can see yourself in this franchise, the one real shortcoming that we've seen is like queer characters. And I wonder if there's any other, like just in terms of like how you watch these, how you've seen them in your own experiences, whatever, if there's anything else that the franchise is lacking. Because I feel like it could always be better, but every movie could always be better. But for like we're saying, for a global multi-billion-dollar franchise, it's still like light years ahead of so many other things. But like, is there anywhere else that you think these movies are lacking that you would like to see in a better representative way, to the point that you were just making?
For sure. I mean, this is very much, if you follow me on Twitter, like, you probably know this about me. It's very much like, I always feel like I'm back on my bullshit about this, but I am an Iranian American, and I always want more Middle Eastern representation in media. And so for me, I would love if there was a Middle Eastern character in this franchise, because I feel like they've done a very good job tapping into like a lot of ethnicities and cultures. They have certainly been in Middle Eastern locations before, but there hasn't actually been a Middle Eastern character. So I think that would be something really exciting, especially because Iran in particular is very much like Cuba. Like, Iranian and American relations obviously broke down after the Iranian Revolution in 1979. And so Iran is actually full of like old American muscle cars that Iranian citizens have like lovingly maintained. If you ever saw the episode that Anthony Bourdain did in Iran, he goes to like one of these like Iranian American muscle car meetups in Tehran, and he's like amazed by all these amazing cars. So that to me would be something like really interesting. Like, I feel like we have gone to a lot of different locations, and that would be really cool for me. And then definitely like the LGBTQ representation is, I feel like very much this is a heterosexually coded franchise.
Sure.
And like that's fine, like, do whatever, it's whatever. But it would be nice if there was just something a little different from that. And to a certain point, it feels like the crew has grown so much that I don't think there's a lot that I think you can't do with a cast of characters that is now this big.
Right.
But I also feel like it wouldn't be a bad thing, since you keep growing the cast, like, grow it a little more. You know, like, do something a little more. And I think that would be awesome, because otherwise they have done, I think, a pretty good job of expanding this universe past an LA street crew.
Yeah.
There's always more you can do, and we joke about them going to space, but, you know, there's other stuff that could happen before they get there.
I am really wondering if there's like a whole pocket of, and I don't want to gloss over everything you said because I think it was all beautifully said and I agree with it all and everything like that, but I can't get out of my head if there is like a franchise of movies in Iran that are basically the Iranian Fast and Furious. Like, Joe, do you remember when we did for the film club that we ran, like the Bollywood, like the Doom movies, DHOM, like these like crazy Indian, like not quite Fast and Furious, but like the closest thing they have. Like, I wonder if there are versions of the Fast and Furious over in Iran that we just don't know about, that aren't huge hits or whatever, that are just American muscle cars that are over there. Like, I can't. That's amazing.
I honestly don't know, because like, Iran does have like a very booming cinematic culture, and like we've certainly seen that here, because you have like Asghar Farhadi, who's won 2 Best Foreign Film Oscars, and so we definitely have a very profound cinematic tradition. But I don't know how much of that is action movies, so that's definitely something that would be interesting. Yeah, that would be That would be somewhat interesting to figure out. But I really would encourage you, like, if you could, to watch that Anthony Bourdain episode in
Sure.
Iran, just because it's so interesting and the cars are so awesome that I think it would be worth it.
Are there, and I just have one more follow-up question, are there Iranian, like, action film directors? I guess maybe the closest I can think of is, like, Ana Lily Amirpour. Like, she's not quite action, but kind of action. Like, she's approaching it.
Right. And I think it's just one of those things, too, where we're always talking about, like, the experience of being, like, from a place versus, like, your parents and family being from a place. Because, like, I'm first gen, and so I consider myself Iranian, but, like, the Iranian film culture there is very much for Iranian audiences versus people like Ana Lily Amirpour or like some other people who I think are also operating from sort of a first gen dynamic. But like she's definitely getting there in terms of Girl Walks Home at Night was the beginnings of something, and then The Bad Batch is just like insane.
And I think she's got an upcoming one with Zac Efron that I'm very excited about too. Like, she's making things that are interesting, if nothing else. Like, it's interesting.
Yeah, she directed the pilot of Briar Patch, that show with Rosario Dawson.
Oh, okay.
On USA right now, and then I didn't know about like a Zac Efron movie, but I know she's doing like a fantasy movie, Mona Lisa and the Blood Moon.
I thought he was involved in that. Maybe he's not. Maybe he dropped out because I'm looking. He's not there. But that was definitely for one of the podcasts that we're doing, Joe. I think it was Zac Attack. I think he was at one point attached. It doesn't look like he's there anymore.
Maybe he dropped out and got replaced with Ed Skrein, because I could see
that would make sense. Yeah,
one of them for the other. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just one of those things where we talk about it a lot, where it's like, you know, it's on all of us to like demand more from media, and so I think having some new blood in the franchise could be good. I mean, we saw what Justin Lin did for it. But yeah, so yeah, I just think it would be interesting to see, you know, more of that sort of thing. Okay, and do we need to do my ranking? Because this is very important stuff.
Please.
Here.
And also, I did just Google, and Zac Efron was previously attached in the Ed Skrein role, so that he went away. So I'm not too familiar with Ed Skrein, but I mean, you can't really step up from Zac Efron, so clearly it's a step down. So, you know.
Well, you watched Game of Thrones. He was original Dario.
Oh, so he got replaced there. Okay.
Yeah, so he got replaced there, and then he's been in a lot of stuff. I feel like I think he was cast as a certain character who was Asian in the original source text of a movie, and then he dropped out because he was like, I shouldn't do this because I'm a white guy, and that was very thoughtful. And then he was in Midway last year, so like he's good, he's fine.
I've seen movies he's been in, but I don't recognize him. Like, I've seen Alita, I've seen Beale Street, I've seen Deadpool, I don't know.
I feel like usually he's just like a background action heavy, and then Midway was like his first main thing. And like he looks very much of that time, so that sort of worked for him.
Cool. Okay.
But yeah, it doesn't get better than Efron,
no.
you know?
No.
Did you guys watch his Hot Ones?
I really liked it.
Okay. Yeah, that was good. I thought it was like surprisingly honest, and I appreciated that.
We love Zeph, we do.
Yeah.
And he's kind of a bro, and we get that.
But he knows that he's a bro.
But he knows it. The self-awareness of it is the best part about it.
Yeah, so it's very refreshing. I mean, I think it takes a lot to admit that, like, you sort of are a stereotype, but I feel like he does that with, like, a grin and, you know, like, some acknowledgement of being that person, and I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, then you can respect it. He seems like he just wants to go live in the fucking wilderness, and if he wants to do that, let him do it. Like, I respect him for like living his dream. That's cool.
This might be like a little too gossipy for the format of this show, but it's amazing.
No. What you don't understand is that this show is 100% gossip.
Well, my boyfriend and I were just talking about this the other day, that like, I don't know if a decade ago, when Efron and Vanessa Hudgens were together, we would have thought that, like, in this time, Efron is the one who comes off looking better. Because, Vanessa Hudgens...
We have talked about the first celebrity death of coronavirus was Vanessa Hudgens' career. It was a joke that I stole from Twitter, but, like, it's true. Like,
God.
How do you mess that one up that badly, girl? What are you doing?
I don't know. That was a mess. And it's just one of those things, if we're talking about self-awareness, that felt so unself-aware. And it just felt like such, like, a privileged, people are going to die, so what? Take. And, like, it really blew my mind. And yet you have, like, Zac Efron going on Hot Ones talking about, like, I don't think I can just be the hot guy anymore, and I don't want to be. And I was like, you know what, Zach? Good for you, buddy. Like, who knew? And his Seth Rogen impression was very good.
It was dead on. He does a great Seth Rogen. He really does.
I was so surprised. But yeah, I want the best for Zach. I really enjoyed Zach. He was the best part of Beach Bum.
The first podcast that Joe and I did together was Zac Attack, the Zac Efron podcast. Up until basically up until basically through Baywatch, we thought we knew what he was, and we were basically not our thesis statement, but our greatest overall worry. And this is on brand for 2F because we love Zeph here. We also think that he should have been Little Nobody instead of Scott Eastwood. They should have had Zac Efron as Kurt Russell's sidekick in 8. But we were worried that he was going to just be a bro forever. But it feels like between the Beach Bum, between the Ted Bundy movie, and now between killing Zac Efron and everything, he's consciously being no, I'm done doing that. I'm going to do weird shit now, and I'm going to subvert your expectations of me. And I think that's the most interesting thing. That's kind of what Keanu is doing now after Keanu had a much longer career.
And it's the Robert Pattinson model.
Yes.
And it's the Daniel Radcliffe model. Yeah. It's I got fuck you money, and now I'm going to do whatever you want.
I'm going to do on stage and be naked with a horse.
Right. And honestly, if you have fuck you money, more respect to you for doing whatever you want. Yeah, do whatever. So I appreciate that. I mean, I'm not saying that Efron is at their level of wealth, because the Twilight and the Harry Potter money is insane to even consider. But I think it's probably hitting 30 and thinking what the hell are we doing here? I appreciate that very much. And it's not saying that he's an amazing actor, because I don't think he's the best, but I think he's doing more and asking more of himself.
But the one thing you can't deny is that he has the bluest of blue eyes.
Oh, they're so blue. Oh my god. Yeah, they're so blue. Well, I mean, they're not they're not the bluest eyes, but they're pretty blue.
I beg to disagree, because according to the IMDb trivia of Charlie St. Cloud, one of the approved trivia bits is that in this
movie,
his eyes are the bluest blue, which we read verbatim, and if it's on the internet, it must be true.
But do you think they're bluer than Alec Baldwin's eyes?
I don't know. We got to have a blue eye off.
You gotta have a blue eye off. You got
like a lip sync battle, but just them just squinting at you.
Yeah.
Efron and Baldwin, and then I feel like
Paul Walker.
Paul Walker, R.I.P. buddy, and I feel like Jake Gyllenhaal's eyes are surprisingly blue.
I just watched the new movie Vivarium, which I did not love, but there's this robot-y guy in there, and he's got it can't be real, but his eyes are shockingly blue, and I was just ooh, the natural blue. That's what we get lost in, the Paul Walker baby blues.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's also the Paul Newman blues. Paul Newman's blues might have been the best blues.
They were, yes. Bullet, the original, the OG Bullet.
Yeah, and honestly, this Zac Efron tangent was good, because do you remember that summer where he was making out with Michelle Rodriguez and Ibiza, and everyone was "Oh
what?
Yeah,
this is the first time we've ever heard about this. I've never heard about this."
Yes, it was a summer where the two of them were just hooking up everywhere on the European club scene, and everyone was "What the hell is this?" And then I think they each separately went to rehab. Yeah, it was not a great time.
Oh god, that's awesome.
Wow, maybe that's why he's not in these movies.
Maybe that's why she wasn't in these movies.
Oof.
Yeah, I do distinctly remember this. Yeah, you can definitely find some pictures of them just hanging out. Here we go. It's from 2014. Zac Efron reportedly fell hard for Michelle Rodriguez, but they did have a decade age difference.
He likes cougars too, man. First Nicole Kidman, now Michelle Rodriguez.
Wow.
2 months. You know what though? 2 months sounds like just the right amount of time to just hook up with each of them and then call it good.
I would have been the third leg of that tripod.
What do you guys talk about? That's what I wanted. Is there talking?
Yeah.
This was 2014, so what was that like?
It was just probably an abdominal, an ab off, right? Just who's more ripped, me or you?
Right.
Yeah.
And they were both in peak physical condition.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking at these images. They're great.
I just scrolled through a whole bunch while you were talking. Yep. All right. That's it. Gotta steer clear of that. Okay. So now, Roxana, the question we asked probably half an hour ago, not half an hour ago, but a long time ago, your rankings for these movies. You can either go from the bottom up or top down, whichever you're more interested in.
I think top down is easier because some of them some of them are malleable, but 5 is always number 1.
Okay.
And then I think 1, because I love 1 a lot.
Okay.
7.
Okay.
7's high.
Yeah, and then 6.
Okay.
These are always sort of in flux. And then 3, 4.
Okay.
And then 8, and then Hobbs and Shaw.
And what about 2?
Oh shit, 2. Let's put 2 above 8.
Okay. So
Okay.
you get 2 at 7th, and then Fate and 8th, and then Hobbs and Shaw at 9th. Okay.
Yeah,
This is very general consensus feels.
Yeah.
I just watched Hobbs and Shaw again because it was on HBO, and then I watched 3, and then I watched 5 because like whenever they're on TV, you have to watch them. And
Mhm.
eight just feels so different. It doesn't feel like a Fast and the Furious movie. There are too many cameos. It's too gimmicky. It doesn't really feel like there are any stakes. So like Hobbs and Shaw is really out, and then 8 is sort of the same way. 8 feels like they stopped being in on the joke, sort of. I don't enjoy that as much. Eight is just Vin Diesel's movie, and that's sort of what I'm concerned about in the franchise moving forward. Is like they haven't found a Paul Walker replacement.
Well, that's what Kate broke our brains about when she was on to talk about 7. Like our conversation with her on 7 made us both sour on 7 in a way that we did not predict, because it feels like Paul passing basically kind of like not ruined the franchise, but like it seemed like they had an end game in mind, and then they're like, oh, we can't do this now without Brian. Like without the Brian character, we can't do what we wanted to do. And so
Yeah.
then they pivoted, and then Dom becomes heel and everything, and like it's this whole other world. And like in like the emotional weight of 7 with the tribute at the end is like undeniable. But like Joe, what we have noticed over the last year or whatever since we talked to Kate was like 7 has taken a tumble because it feels like it's not the movie that it was meant to be.
And I was never really hype on 7 to begin with. Like, you carry a lot of the emotional weight of Paul Walker's passing in 7, but on the whole, I'm not super hype on 7.
I think that 7. Well, I think they're all. How do I phrase this? I think I think all of them to a certain degree have a villain problem. More okay, this is going to go broader, whatever.
Okay.
This is just who I am as a person. In general, I feel like they have taken a turn toward being more militaristic in tone.
Mhm.
Now that they're doing
Okay.
like government stuff
Yes.
and like
Mhm.
government
Yeah.
missions and stuff like that, and it really has moved past its initial like heist origins. And just for me personally, the movies where it's like you got to bring down this war criminal, I always feel like are not my thing. Like they are very imperialist sometimes to me, and that's again this like American exceptionalism thing. Those I don't like as much, and like 7 is definitely that. 6 also has that. 8 has that. Like as we're now getting to them like saving governments, I feel like the stories have sometimes become too big. So all of the villains kind of like merge together for me, and they don't matter as much.
And they're working together in the world too. Like they're all connected now. And we've talked about how like now you can't make one where they don't save the world, because how do you
Right.
lower the stakes like that? Like if you save the world in the last movie, how can you not save the world again in the next movie?
Yeah, and that's why like I really love 5, because 5 has to me just the right amount of like exacerbating the tension, and also it keeps it believable, at least for me. I mean, like a bank vault being like dragged throughout the streets is like low-key insane, but I can understand one drug dealing entity and one plan. Like the movie doesn't move around, stays in Brazil, US government isn't really involved. And
Yeah.
like I liked Hobbs. Honestly, I liked Hobbs sort of as a bad guy. I think they've done such a character shift with him.
Do you like what he's become, or you don't like what he's become?
I don't like what he's become because I think he's just become The Rock in a PG-13 family-friendly movie.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Like he's just The Rock as he is in Rampage or as he is in the Jumanji movies. He doesn't feel to me like he's playing a character anymore. They were just like, all right, buddy, like put on as much muscle as you want and go for it. So, it's interesting because in 5, like he is sort of a bad guy. He tells the Brazilian police force he doesn't really want their help. He basically tells them to fuck off. And like he's very sure of who these people are. And so when he gets folded into the family, it's like, that felt like a step too far. Like he could have worked with them, but not like been an official member of the family. And it's interesting too, because like he and Vin Diesel hate each other. And so I feel like you feel that in 8 as well. Like that The
Definitely.
Rock and Diesel can't get along. So yeah, so 5 feels like just the right amount of stakes. Like they just want like a little bit money, few $1 million each to do whatever they want. Like that's
Yeah.
fine.
Like 10.
That's not even that much money. Like
No.
that's fine.
That's livable.
Especially when they're making $1 million bets in this movie, and then Rico and Tego at the end bet it all. Like,
Yeah. Also, where did they go? Do we ever know?
They come back.
They're in 8. They're in one scene in 8.
Very briefly, right?
Yes.
Like I barely remember
Like
that.
a cameo, essentially.
But that's what you were saying.
Right.
That 8 feels just like it's just a series of cameos, right? So yeah.
Yeah, 8 is like that, and Hobbs and Shaw. I mean, like when Ryan Reynolds shows up in Hobbs and Shaw, I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, really?
I mean, we're not really complaining, but I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, I'm not a Ryan Reynolds fan, so that rankled
That would
me a
do
little
it,
bit.
yeah.
I did like when Rob Delaney showed up as basically the British counterpart to his American version. Like I like that a lot. But okay,
Yeah, any Rob Delaney is good, but yeah,
we can never have enough Rob Delaney.
no, not at all.
Okay, so now we've got a series of basically either or questions and some open ended, no wrong answers. This is our lightning round, just to get a sense of who you are. At the end of the episode, we're going to do a character quiz. We're going to basically do like a personality, like a J14 quiz. We're going to find out which member of the family you are. But here, this is just to sort of establish your credentials, see who you are, who you more identify with. So first off, are you more of a Brian or a Dom?
Brian.
Okay.
Well,
Oh,
no, it's Brian. It's Brian.
Is Brian a good cop or is he a shitty cop?
Brian is a good. Are there good cops? Are there good cops?
Is he a capable police officer? Yeah, is he good at his job?
it's not an easy answer.
I think that he is good enough at his job to know that his job should not exist, which is why he leaves it.
That's an interesting take. I like
Interesting.
that.
What I wrote down this time, Joe, is that we can make fun of him all we want for not necessarily like as I mentioned, we're breaking down the first movie minute by minute, and like in the first movie, he goes to investigate Hector and the family, and he literally shows up in the truck that says the Racer's Edge on the side. Like he's the only one driving it around. Like you're undercover. Why are you giving yourself away like that? Anyway,
Right. But it's the Point Break arc, which is that like you're good enough at doing this to realize that like you shouldn't be doing this.
okay.
So yes, I'll say yes, but like with an asterisk.
But what
Okay.
I will say is that in this movie, he proves at the end that he has good timing and he's a great marksman. So, like, I mean, I guess that's also the Automancer thing where they're leveling up as the movies go on. But,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
even if he's not a great cop in terms of, like, literally doing his job, like, not investigating, but, like,
He has the
literally
cop technical
bringing
abilities.
criminals in. Yeah, he has the
It's
skills.
the pieces
He
of
just
being a good
chooses
cop.
not to use it, which makes him even worse of a cop. But
Or
anyway.
uses them for the wrong reasons.
Yes.
He has the skills, and he's like, I'm just gonna go rogue, and I respect that.
Yeah, just like Ethan Hunt, he went rogue. Okay. Are you more of a Mia or a Letty?
I'd say Letty. Yeah, okay.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah.
Are you more of a Roman or a Tej?
This is so,
I like that you're agonizing
hard.
over every one of these.
I know these are difficult. I'll go with Tej because in rewatching it, Tej just has like a modest. He just wants to like own a garage like that. Like that's a reasonable desire, and so yeah, I'll go with that.
I also do like I made note this time when everybody gathers in the garage, like after they have that great like Ocean's 11, like we're going to get a team, and then they all converge on the garage and they're explaining things. Brian introduces Dom to Tej and Roman. He's basically like, here, Vin Diesel, here's Too Fast, Too Furious. This is the movie you missed. Now we're all caught up. And I never really like thought about it in that term. Like he doesn't know those characters, but it's also like, here is this other movie. You were not a part of it. Now we're all on the same page. I just thought it was a very different way to look at it that I've never seen before.
Yeah, and it's definitely like Brian sort of cluing him into like there's a part of my life that you weren't a part of, and like it was fine, and now we're all here, and like take my word that they're good. And so I feel like there's enough trust between the two of them that like Dom just takes his word for it.
Yeah. Okay. Are you more of a Hobbs or a Shaw?
These are hard.
I know.
Yeah, Shaw. Definitely Shaw.
Okay.
Because, again, when I rewatched Hobbs and Shaw, so much more about Shaw's lifestyle appealed to me. I was like, you have a very nice large kitchen.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
have a
he
very
did.
expansive underground garage. Like, all of that, he's very precise. Oh, yeah, yes. And that movie at least has a shout out to Italian Job, which, again,
Yes.
A+. A+.
True. Are you more a fan of American Muscle or imports?
Imports.
Okay, that's wildly underpopular, but that's you're close to Joe's heart there on that one.
That's on
Yeah.
my side there.
Yeah.
I do like the imports. I mean, like you can like both and love one more. So
Yeah, exactly. I'm not like, fuck American Muscle, but like if given the choice, well, oh God. I mean, but so many American Muscle cars are really good. I mean, I feel like
are
I
really
would
pretty.
I feel like I would do like American Muscle like up to a certain time period.
That's what a lot of people do.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? Yes. All right. Let's switch. You can
Oh.
switch.
Oh,
yeah.
damn.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
okay.
I like that I stopped talking and you talked her out of being on your team.
It's okay.
Ah,
No worries. You like what you like, man. There's no
yeah. I
judges.
just thought of the 70s cars, and I was like, I have to be true to myself.
Are you more a fan of Corona or Belgian ale?
Ugh. Neither. Ugh. No answer.
No beers at all?
No beers at all.
Wow, okay.
Is there a bourbon option? Write in bourbon, and then we'll go from
Okay,
there.
I'll write down bourbon. That's totally fine. Now we're pulling a job. The three of us are pulling a job. Are you a racer? Are you out in the field with us doing the job? Or are you a designer? Are you, as we learned from Spider-Man, the man in the chair? Are you a racer or are you a designer?
I'll be the designer.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be the designer. That's fine.
Okay. We are successful in pulling our job. We each win or steal or earn or whatever $10 million. We go to a casino. We go to the roulette table. Are you putting it all on black or are you putting it all on red?
I'm putting it all on black.
Is there any reason why?
Because I was a middle school goth, and
Oh, fair.
putting it all on black is the way I used to live my life.
Not a quarter mile
I'm
at a
wearing
time.
black.
Just put it all
Literally
black.
every t-shirt I own is black, and it makes my life so easy.
Yeah, I mean, I respect that very much. Just streamline it.
Yeah.
A plane is taking off on a runway. You have to drive your car into the plane before it takes off, or you're in a car in a plane in the sky, and you have to drive out of the plane with a GPS-guided parachute to land on the ground safely. Would you rather drive into the plane, into the plane, or out of a plane?
Definitely into the plane, I think.
Okay.
I feel like that is... I'm very scared of heights. So I feel like if I did that, then I'd at least be there when it's going up versus already being up and having to come down.
Fair. Yeah, a lot of people factor the height into it mostly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the height is very scary. So the first one for sure.
Is the word oil one syllable or two?
It's one. It's one.
I do wonder, Joe, if any listeners actually care about this. I am fascinated by all these answers, but I wonder if anybody else cares.
I don't know, man. They keep listening, so
They do.
Yes.
Okay.
I think the quiz is good. This is really causing a lot of introspection.
Get ready for the multiple choice quizzes later. You might be
Yeah.
paralysis, choice by paralysis. We'll find out. Now, neither of these are in the greater Baltimore area, but do you have a preference between In-N-Out and Whataburger?
Oh, In-N-Out. 100% In-N-Out.
thank you.
You had Whataburger?
No, but when we went out west, In-N-Out was the best. It was affordable. The fries were very good, and we got it animal style, and that was great. And I'm gonna go strong In-N-Out.
I love In-N-Out. Joey likes to pretend like Whataburger is edible.
I'm just unimpressed. I'm going to keep saying it every time when you try to put me down in this way. I'm just unimpressed by In-N-Out. That's my stat. I just In-N-Out is a C, and Whataburger is a B minus.
Ooh, a C.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, he-
average.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not.
No.
I'm not impressed by it.
Well, what are you unimpressed by? The size of the burger, the cook on the burger, what's
Just
the
the
problem?
overall flavor profile. I feel I think if I lived in LA for a while, I think I would maybe sing a different tune. But when I was down in Austin, there were so many other better. I didn't go to Whataburger a lot. There were other better burger places in Austin too. So I don't.
Sure, but if we're talking chain to chain, you can't talk about other restaurants compared with those two. You have to just talk about the chains.
Mhm.
And I feel like In-N-Out, I appreciate how concise the menu is. It's only a few things, and they
Same.
do those few things well.
Same.
I'm okay with that.
I mean, to that end, that's where I prefer Five Guys. I think Five Guys does a simple thing better than anyone.
I used to really love Five Guys, but I feel like it has gotten very, very expensive because you're
wildly
Crazy expensive.
Yeah.
it's wildly inexpensive because you're paying for the possibility of all those toppings. And so then I get more toppings because I'm this is a $9 burger. I should get everything on it.
Same.
And then you get it and it's wet and not good. And yeah, I don't love it as much as I used to.
You don't love a wet burger? I mean, that sounds delicious.
Wet with
They
cheese.
get mushy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get mushy.
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah.
what I want.
And they don't toast the bun, so then it's just pure mush.
Right,
Yep,
that's
I'm
what
with you.
Can you not even give me a layer of fat? Do something. You're killing me. And they are $9.
Yeah.
That cannot be they're
Oh, yeah,
very
You add fries and a drink, you're
You're
15,
13 bucks.
20
Yep,
bucks,
13,
yeah.
15.
right.
Mhm.
I mean, well, because who's just getting a burger? I'm getting a double bacon cheeseburger, and those are very expensive.
Yes.
Horrible for me, but delicious, but expensive.
All right. Would you rather die? I guess so. We have a third option here. Either from a wet cheeseburger in a fiery explosion or in icy water?
Oh my god, these are all so bad. Oh shit.
Wet cheeseburger is not really an option, but it can be if you want to die by wet cheeseburger.
I'll go the cheeseburger route
Okay.
because the water route is scary because I almost drowned when I was a kid. So that fucks me up. And
Ugh.
then fire is too close to Paul Walker's death, and that also
Ooh.
fucks me up. So yeah, cheeseburger. Cheeseburger is fine. I don't know. Do I choke on it? Does it like poison me? Like
I'm just
whatever.
thinking it's like you die from sadness, that you
It's like
overpay.
you're always stepping on it.
Yeah, you emptied all your wallet, all your life savings. You can't afford medical
It's
care.
in your
because
wallet.
You bought all this. You bought this very expensive burger. You have no money to cure yourself, and then it's not good and it's
That's
unhealthy.
just the American condition. Like that's just America. So
The
yeah,
American
do that
dream.
one.
You
Yeah,
just
do
said
that
dream
one.
wrong.
Died by America.
I'm poor and I don't have health insurance.
But I
and
have
it's
this
too
wet
expensive
cheese
to
double
live.
bacon
Yeah.
cheeseburger.
Mhm.
Yeah, go with that one. Just write down, American dream.
I live paycheck to
death.
paycheck and burger to burger.
Yeah. shout out to Bernie Sanders. Sorry, Bernie.
R.I.P. Not R.I.P., but R.I.P.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my god.
I mean, you never know. You can't say R.I.P. these days because who knows?
No, just R&P to like my personal hopes and dreams for this country. But
Yes. I saw a tweet. John Boyce retweeted. He said, "Feels like the DNC just told me to go home and get my fucking shine box." And it's like, yeah, okay, like
Oh God!
it's
yeah, pretty
right
much.
on brand.
I mean, between John Prine's death yesterday
Mhm.
and Bernie today, it's just a lot.
I know.
It's a lot.
Revenge of the Nerds or The Dark Knight?
Is this a real question?
Yeah.
Like who chooses Revenge of the Nerds?
Other people have, but more specifically, Ramsey chooses neither. Because at the end of 8, when Roman says "Revenge of the Nerds" or "The Dark Knight,"
Who are you gonna
wanna
pick?
go with Tej, you want to go with me? I mean, it sounded like the way that you phrased that first answer. It sounds like Dark Knight slam dunk, but like I don't want to preemptively write down your answer.
No, I mean if we're talking about just in terms of like cinematic comparisons.
We're talking about whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, if we're talking like cinematic comparisons, yes, go Dark Knight. But
Okay.
I do think that Dark Knight's ending gets increasingly annoying whenever I rewatch it.
The supercomputer thing is basically God's Eye from 8.
Exactly. And I guess to me, at a certain point, it's like, I feel like we already live in that society and we just don't fully acknowledge that we're being surveilled all the time. So there's part of me that, like, that doesn't land as hard because I'm like, that's just what's happening. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
maybe I'm just very bleak and cynical, but I'm like, this doesn't seem that bad. We're already doing this. But no, the two fairies things sort of bothers me about Dark Knight, but that's neither here nor there. I would still choose it over Revenge of the Nerds.
It feels like the Two Fairies thing in Dark Knight is like the darkest timeline of The Good Place. It's like, this is what Chidi didn't want to have happen.
Right. It's very much like the trolley problem to like a greater scale. I just think it goes on too long. It's a scene that's set up because it's making the point the rich people of Gotham are bad, which we've
Mhm.
always sort of known. So I feel like it just reaffirms that. Like there was nothing about the like respectable people being the ones who want to blow up the other fairy that surprised me.
That's fair. That's fair. We're on a job. We need you to go into the other room to distract a room full of people. We're like, Roxana, sing a song, karaoke style. What song are you singing?
What's very fun about this is that before South by Southwest got canceled, I actually made a karaoke list that I wanted to sing, which I will pull up right now. I would sing Number One Crush by Garbage.
Oh, very good. I like that one a lot.
It was a very like Romeo and Juliet tinged karaoke list. So
Joe, are you familiar with Garbage? I don't know. We've never actually talked about Garbage. I went through like a 1 year long Garbage phase in college.
Never listened to Garbage.
Do you know who they are, or you don't even know who they are?
No idea who they are.
Oh my god!
They're basically in like every '90s comedy. Like Only Happy When It, you would know Only Happy When It Rains.
Yes, I know that one.
Okay. But Special is also so good. They're
Yes.
all good. And all the music videos were good. And Shirley Manson was very attractive.
Yeah,
and
she
it's
was
just,
adorable.
it's very worth listening to all the garbage you can find.
One more question, then we're gonna get to Joe's brand new question. But actually, we'll save Joe's for last for this time. But
Yes.
do you have a favorite character in the franchise?
Yeah, I mean it's Han. It's 100% Han.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's a
for
really
sure.
common answer. People really love Han. I mean, like
Mhm.
we definitely love Han, but I didn't know that. I didn't know how many other people agreed with us. Yeah, how universal it was.
Yeah. I mean it was Brian. But
Yeah, mine is Brian/Han. Like, basically, the way that we see the franchise through Brian's eyes is beautiful, but, like, Han is just so goddamn cool.
and he doesn't do any of the, like, increasing posturing that Dom does. Like, again, like, Dom in 5 is, like, very sure of himself, but he's not being an asshole about
Mhm.
it. Like, he's
Mhm.
not getting in your face about it. Like, he's very confident in who he is and his abilities. He's just gonna do the job. And then I feel like, especially in 8, it's like, God, this guy's a jerk. But, Han is very steady. Like, he's able to read a room so well. He just has all of it without this need to be, like, almost toxic in his masculinity. Like, I
Sure.
love Han. Oh, Han's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I'm so glad he's back.
All right, Joe, time to unveil your new
Okay.
question. And I think, unless this is a different question I don't know, I think I know. This comes from the minute, right?
Yes.
Okay.
You mentioned your boyfriend. He says he's going to take you on a date. He says he's
Mhm.
going to take you to this new restaurant he found.
Mhm.
He's describing the restaurant. He says
There's wood tables.
there's wood tables,
There's red
little red
candles.
candles. There's food everywhere.
No, there's
What?
food all over the place.
There's food all over the place. What does that
Mhm.
mean? What does food all over the place mean?
What are the other things that are there?
Okay, well, this is a brand new question. So we just went down. So in the first movie,
Don't no, you explain it after. Explain it after. Just read
Okay.
it and get the answer first.
okay, it's wood tables, it's red candles, it's plantains, it's picadillo, it's food all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
What does food all over the place mean?
It's plantain.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
It's food all over the place.
God, I mean,
Does it mean anything to you? Like, what was the first thought that came into your head when I'm like, you need to try this restaurant? There's food all over the place. What does that mean to you?
first thing that I think is like you're taking me to a restaurant that I need to help clean. Like it does not
Like
imply-
crumbs all over the floor. That's what I think.
A
too.
dirty restaurant.
Yeah, it does not imply that like the food is good.
Right.
It just implies that like there
It
was
says nothing about the
explosion.
food.
You know what it actually makes me think of? It actually makes me think of the food fight in Hook. That's what it makes me
Okay.
think of.
I thought a food fight second too. Yep.
Wooden tables and food all over the place. That's the food fight in Hook.
We just did in our last episode the minute by minute breakdown, and in the first movie, when
Oh, I distinctly remember him asking her.
yeah, so Vince comes into the kitchen drunk, and Mia's like, "Hey Vince, what's the name of that restaurant? The ones the wood tables got food all over the place," and we're like,
Plantain.
what could that possibly mean? And the best guess that we have is that like there's food hanging from the ceilings like it's a butcher shop. But that doesn't necessarily make sense. And so Joe wants to ask everybody, when you hear the phrase food all over the place, what's the first thing you think of? Because it's such
My
a
friend said
throwaway
that
line.
they
but
thought that it was large dishes of food,
Mhm.
like large entrees. It's like, oh man, this is like there's food all over the place. It's a feast there.
Is it like a buffet?
I thought buffet too.
If it were a Cuban buffet, I would go. Because
Sounds good to
plantain,
me.
yeah, that sounds great. Actually,
Plantain, little red tables, little red candles.
Mm.
yeah, that's fine. Do we actually think that it was in the script, or do you think it was something else and they screwed it up?
We have no idea.
Joanna
But
Brewster was like, it's got food. I can't remember, but it's got food all over the place.
Joey messaged me the other day and was like, if we ever meet her,
The one question I want to ask her.
is
Yeah.
what the fuck is food all over the place?
What does that even mean? Yeah, I have a lot of questions.
Is that the
actually,
real
about that.
line? Did you shoot a couple different? Were you improving? Was that in the script?
It's really going to haunt me for a long time.
If you ever have an update, you can always tweet at us or just email family@cageclub.me and be like, I got it. I know
If
it's
you,
food all
if you
over the
go to
place.
a restaurant and there's food all over the place, send
Take
us a picture.
Send it in.
Yeah. Okay. All right. This is okay. Good question, but
Thank
a crazy question.
Oh, for sure, 100%. So now we're going to kick off the conversation. This is all intro. This is all prelude. This is all the beginning of the conversation. So now we've got 3 questions. Answer one, answer all of them, whatever you want. This lap, the theme for this lap is kicking it old school. We're kind of focusing, I don't know anything about cars, but Joe's kind of focusing on the cars in these movies. There's a lot of old school cars in this. There's the Martin Luther King car. There's the cool Dodge Chargers at the end, even though they're not necessarily old. So I got 3 different questions. Answer as many as you want. Do you have a favorite car movie? Do you have a Barbie dream car? And what's your favorite car or car stunt from this movie? If you have an answer to any one or any of those questions.
Do I have a favorite car? I mean, I think car movie could go like a lot of different ways.
It's broad. It's super
Mhm.
broad.
I always like a good sort of like race movie. So in that sort of vein, Mad Max Fury Road is definitely in there.
Of course,
Gotten that one a
that's 2 episodes
bunch,
in a row.
yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that movie is incredibly relentless. We did a countdown for Pajiba of like the best movies of the decade or whatever, and that was our number one, and I was able to write about that. So that one
Very
is
cool.
that one's very close to my heart. Drive, obviously, Drive is great.
Yes.
Very good one. Shout out Ryan Gosling.
Yeah. Shout out Nicholas Winding Refn, just a complete fucking crazy person.
Did you see Too Old to Die Young?
No, it's on my queue, but I've heard so many bad
Oh,
things.
boy.
But they're from people who don't like Refn.
So here's the thing. Yes, I love him. I was exhausted by the first 2 or 3 episodes because they're all like 90 minutes long, basically. And then I got to a point where I was like, oh no, I admire the hell out of you for basically saying, fuck you, I'm not going to take a single note from anybody. I'm making the show that I want to make, and this is that weird vision. And like, I think if you like him and his style and like what he's about, you're going to love that show.
I don't know if I can deal with that much Miles Teller.
He's very good in it. And like, I have really soured on him since like I first saw him in like Spectacular Now. And I watched it again and I'm like, oh, I don't even like him in this anymore. But he's really good in that show.
Do you not like him as an actor or as a person? Like, what is coloring your perception?
I think that like the person element of it like colors him as an actor.
That's fair. I think he's somebody, it's very hard for me to separate who he is
art from the artist.
Yeah, it's very, and like, it's not like I don't think he's done, here's actually what's funny. I don't think he's actually done anything like bad, or at least that I recall. I just feel like he is living that sort of like douchebag frat boy lifestyle that we were just talking about, that like Zac Efron left behind. And that might be like totally untrue, but it's very much what he gives off. So I have definitely avoided watching that show because of him. Although, like, I liked him in Spectacular Now, and there's been a lot of stuff I've liked him in. But yeah, okay. So like Drive, Mad Max, and then like there are always movies that just have great cars, although I don't consider them like a car movie. Like The Irishman has great cars.
Yeah.
It's the kind of movie where I'm like, how did you find like all these amazing like vintage cars? Like that one is definitely up there. But I guess I would say of all of them, it's probably tied between like Mad Max and Drive. But like Ford v Ferrari, like I feel like we've had a lot of really good car movies lately. And it's sort of refreshing, actually. I feel like there's actually been sort of a focus on like what the cars are. And then, like you always have Death Proof. I don't know. That's a good question. It definitely makes me think about the things that I have enjoyed watching and thinking to myself like, oh, that car is actually pretty tight. So that's a good one. Okay. Next question was what? Is this the Barbie question?
You have a Barbie dream car. Just like, if you have like all the money in the world, if we robbed the bank in Rio and you had $10 million, what car would you buy?
This is a very good question. I feel like all the cars in John Wick are pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So
cool.
maybe any of the John Wick cars. This very much is like a sign of my childhood, but I always loved Dylan's car on 90210.
Okay.
What was it?
It was a Porsche, like a vintage Porsche.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like a Porsche. It's a 356.
Oh, wow.
The
Yeah, okay.
internet is telling
Yeah.
me. Yes, like that car was pretty tight. Yeah, I think that just because like there very much was that appeal of like watching 90210 and like he pulls up in the car and he's gonna whisk Brenda away, and so that was always that's like a solid teenage girl fantasy. And then what was the last question? I'm sorry.
Do you have a favorite car or a favorite car stunt in this movie? And this is kind of a weird one because like there are car stunts, but it's also kind of like a grounded, like this is kind of the last before it gets crazy, before we're on the world's longest runway. This is kind of the more based in reality type of thing.
Yeah. Well, because I just rewatched it today, I do really like the train heist where they're stealing the cars off the train, because that to me is like so awesome. And I feel like with that one, you really feel the individual choices they have to make. Like they have to get in the car, trust that mechanism that like moves the car over onto the thing that's like driving beside them, and then they it's like, all right, we trust you, like go off into the desert or whatever. So like that one I really like, because that's just like a great way to like start the movie and set you into the space. And I have a really weird fascination with trains, so all of that kind of came together for me in a really good way. But the question I had when rewatching this movie, Brian and Mia, there is a third car in the beginning when they do the heist to break out Dom. Do we ever like get confirmation as to who was in the third car?
I don't know.
I think Brian and Mia were
Vince?
driving together, right? Or was it
No.
Brian and Mia
There are-
separately?
There are 3 separate like black Dodge Chargers that are
And
all
it's not
part of it.
Han
Oh, you mean at the beginning of the movie where they're breaking Dom out of the bus?
on the end of the last
Yeah.
movie.
Who's in the third car?
So it's not Han because Han leaves at the beginning of 4, right? So he has to get
Yeah.
called back in. So it's Brian, it's Mia.
They never show the other person.
Hmm.
And in 5, when they're talking about like when it's all over the news and they have like the news footage or whatever, they just refer to Brian and Mia, but the opening sequence has 3 cars.
It does, yeah.
So I've always been curious about that, and I was just reminded of my curiosity. The
I don't
train
remember.
is actually my favorite stunt, but the opening is what bothers me.
The opening of the train part or the opening of the movie?
The opening of the movie when they bust Dom out, just because I'm always thinking who is in that third car, and it's like, is that something that we're going to come back to? Like, do they
No.
leave that open because there's a way? I mean, I don't know. Who knows? I don't know.
The thing that got me about the opening this time was we always comment on how many civilian casualties there are and like how we don't really care about any lives that like seem like they just like make so like it's so passive on like, oh, like all these people are dying. But like I watching it this time and I was thinking about that, the bus flips and the guy's like, notorious criminal Dominic Toretto was broken out of jail today in like a crazy bus crash, and he's like, strangely, no one died. And then like, and he just
All the
continues
prisoners
on.
are accounted for. Every prisoner is accounted for.
I'm like, did you watch that bus just like tumble like 50 times down the road? And he's like, yeah, everybody's fine. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Just like some like cuts and bruises. Like, it's really okay.
We're still at the point where they have to even like passively like say this, you know, like because like as we get further, they're just like, we don't care that people are dying.
No, people are dying. But even this one, like when they show Dom in the like prison transport bus, he's not like wearing a seatbelt. Like he's just sitting in the bus. So that bus flips over like 8 times. Nobody was seriously injured.
Bus. Yeah.
Well, Joe, maybe to the point that I made in the intro, where we learn in the first movie where he says, I did 2 years in Lompoc, I'll die before I go back. Maybe he's not wearing a seatbelt because he's hoping the bus gets into a car accident and he gets killed rather than go to prison. So maybe it's all part of his master plan.
All I'm thinking is I just wish that the newscaster would have described it as people all over the place.
Yeah,
just
people all over.
It's a bus, 4 wheels, a steering wheel, people all over the place.
Yeah,
Sorry.
for sure. So many people die in these movies, and we don't talk about it at all.
No. There's so many cops specifically that die in this movie, but they throw it all away with the one they're like, oh yeah, only corrupt cops are after you. So it's like their lives are inherently less valuable because they are, economically downtrodden and have to rely on like bribe money from a drug lord to like get by. But they're corrupt, so like who cares if like a safe like obliterates their truck or like decapitates them or like knocks them into the water? Like they took money once. Who cares? Their lives aren't worth living.
They're not people.
No, it's fine. It's really okay.
Joe, is there a stunt or a car in this movie that you're particularly fond of?
I really like the jump to piggyback off that. I like the jump off the end of the train thing with Dom driving into the lake, Brian on the car. That's like my favorite part of that. I think it's a continuation of that stunt. That piece of it with them like in the air and the car flying and all that stuff, that really gets me going every time I see it.
And that also, again, feels like something that's like, I mean, it's insane, but it also feels like realistic and sort of tangible. Like once we're getting to like cars driving out of airplanes with parachutes. It's like, it's so wild that I can no longer feel fear about it. But I remember watching this and thinking like, this could actually like be bad for them. And it's not, they're fine, they're whatever. But it was a moment that really made you gasp.
Yeah.
And it's so early on in the movie.
Yeah.
Like they do so much early on in the movie to like set the tone of like, this is how amped we're going to do this shit. It's going to be good.
I think one thing that I always forget until I watch this movie is how methodical the first 45 minutes of this are. Because, like, the family doesn't gather until, like, 40, 45, 50 minutes in. Like, there's so much where it's just Vince for a little bit, but then like Dom and Brian and Mia, and it's just like the core group. But it's kind of the movie that we had all in 4, and they don't want to let go of that yet. They're just like, let's keep this together because we know that we're about to blow this up in terms of just number of people, and it's never going to be able to get back down to that core group. Like, let's just enjoy this as long as we possibly can.
It's very intimate. And
Yeah.
I think you really get a sense of a lot of people at this point are like gone from their lives. Like they lost Letty. Vince might have betrayed them at that certain point. Like that first escape through the favelas when like Brian and Mia are holding hands and then eventually they meet up with Dom again. Like there are some real emotional stakes there. I just think about the fact like when she tells them that she's pregnant and like there's just a lot about that whole thing.
Well, yeah, there's
Like,
nothing more
very
intimate than telling your boyfriend and your brother at the same time that you're pregnant.
Right. Just guess what? I
Their
have to tell you
family.
right now.
I just Googled, do Brian and Mia get married? Because I don't think they ever do. Like, we know that
No,
Dom,
they don't. I thought about this time too. That's
Dom
weird.
and Letty get secret married that we see at the end when, she's reminding him, right? She's trying to bring him back to life with memories. But
Yeah.
I like on Google, how like when you ask a question, they also ask like, or they also say, people also ask. And one of them verbatim is just, what happened Mia Toretto? Not what happened to, what happened Mia Toretto? And I
No,
go,
all over the place.
But all over the place. Yeah, it's fine. Do we not see them wearing rings?
I don't know.
I don't think so. I never noticed it.
Right, they have the kid. Well, I mean, and I think we would have known in the new movie because aren't they? Well, no, because that's Dom's kid,
Wait,
right?
are they living at 1327? I guess they are. We've never talked about that, Joe. Like, remember when Deckard sends the bomb to 1327 and blows up the house? Like,
Brian, and Mia also live in this house.
and
yes.
Jack.
And Jack, yes.
And presumably Letty?
I would imagine she does.
That house is big, but it's not that big.
No.
I feel like
Also, you're all like multi millionaires.
no, I feel like they all live there. Maybe?
That's amazing.
It's gonna be like Full House. Like the house, like it looks decent on the outside, but like it's huge inside.
I want a sitcom of that.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
I would watch that. I definitely want that more than like Fuller House or any of that crap.
Dom, Brian, Mia, and Letty all living in one tiny house. That's the sitcom. Ugh.
You know what though? I do feel like it's not even like looking at pictures now, like the inside was small, but the outside of that house is actually pretty big.
Yes, and we don't really know what upstairs looks like, other than we know Mia's room from the first movie.
They probably have a third floor. There's probably an attic at least.
There's
You think-
definitely a basement.
Do you think that like Dom, just like Uncle Jesse, got relegated to the attic when like Mia and Brian effectively got married, but without getting married? Like when they settled down and got domestic, that Dom's like,
No,
all right, I'll go
Brian's
upstairs.
in the attic.
Brian's
Brian's in the attic for sure.
And
100%.
Mia's still back in her old room.
Yeah, they sleep separately. Yeah.
Dom definitely has the basement, like 100%.
No.
It's like half garage it's a garage with a bed in it.
Well, but they have a garage, right? They have a separate
The
garage.
detached, yeah.
Right. So maybe that's like his apartment /
He's like in a loft up there.
Yeah, I think so. I got a lot
No,
of
that's his
questions.
man cave. Like that's where he goes to hang out and get out of the house. But like he's clearly still in his room. Mia and Brian got delegated to go upstairs. They're in the attic.
But is there
And-
anything about Dom that makes you think he would even have a room that's separate from a garage?
He does because Letty walks him up to his room in the first one.
Mm.
She says, "Come give me a massage," and she's presumably not living there, so he does have a bedroom. He has one. I don't think he uses it often,
But at that point, he does. I don't know.
and I don't think he would give it up because it's like it's his house.
Yeah, it is their well,
Or is it his dad's house and they're just living there? You know what I mean? Because we hear again about, this is the movie where, we find out that his dad had the family barbecues. Like, it feels like that's a weird thing that I've thought about. Like, not that I'm ever going to live in my parents' house, but like as they get ready to sell it, like if I say I bought it from them, do I move into like their bedroom? Like that's a weird
That's
thing.
so weird. I could never do that. It's so creepy to me.
okay. The internet claims that Letty lived down the street.
Yeah, that's where. Yeah, that's
Growing
what she
up,
did,
yes.
growing up. Yeah,
Okay.
But maybe she still does? Maybe she still lives with her parents?
this is just like just one
Did
block.
Letty have parents?
Because how old is she in the first movie? Like 25?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought she was supposed to be way younger than that.
Maybe 20?
Yeah, I thought like 19, 20.
Because like that was 20 years ago, so she's probably what, 40, 45 now?
I would
No,
say she's probably like
27
40.
now.
I feel like she's probably like between 40 and like 43.
Actually, no. I think Letty's Tombstone.
Yeah, we looked it up. We knew
there
her
we go.
age at the beginning.
Leticia Ortiz, born in 83, so she's supposed to be 18 in the first movie.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
But that's also 18 in the new timeline. That basically, so I think she's supposed to be like 21 because I think they basically retrofitted it so like 3 years got cut. I think.
Okay.
Like, I think they condensed everything. So she's supposed to be like between, let's say, we can safely say between like 18 and 21 in the first movie.
Okay.
It's a lot of math and a lot of like weird real estate discussion.
This is all about real estate. That's, laptop of microwave. How
Yeah.
much. So now Fast Five. Roxana, what do you love about this movie? And we talked about it sort of through and through as we've, talked here so far. But like, what do you love about this movie? Favorite parts, favorite moments? Like, what about this movie stands out above the rest? Like, what makes this one your favorite other than just like the perfect blend of everything? Like, what are your favorite parts about Fast Five?
It's definitely my favorite because I feel like it is one of the only ones, like the first one, that actually feels like it has real stakes and real consequences for these characters. How to even begin? To start with one, like the thing that I love about one is like they all lose something and they all walk away from something and there are actually lasting repercussions. And so for me, I really do actually enjoy stories that end. And it's sort of weird to say that in the context of Fast and Furious because we talk about how this franchise is going to last forever. But one, like if one had ended where it did, I still would have been satisfied with that story. And I honestly feel like if five had ended when it did, I also still would have been satisfied with that story. Like they have their one big heist, they have their one big score, everybody is moving on with certain parts of their lives. Dom has a new person that he's in love with, like everybody has split up and they're doing their own thing. And so something about the finality of that really works for me because I think it then allows for them to play around with really interesting things within the movie itself. And you get the return of Vince and you get the friction that brings to the group. And there's actual real tension there, I think, between Dom and Brian and Vince and this idea of what the crew was versus what it is now. And we haven't yet gotten to that point where they're actually saving the world. Like, there's something about when the story gets that big that I feel like it almost becomes a little bit anonymous. Because they're now good at everything, you don't remember the stuff that they're really good at. But five focuses so much on what they're really good at, which is the driving and the planning of this heist and just being really good criminals. Figuring out how to get into the prison is very ingenious and very fun, and they're stuck in one location, and I just feel like there's more intensity to the story because we're not like fucking around with like continent hopping and you're not getting random US government intervention. It just feels very tightly constructed, which is surprising for a movie that's like 130 minutes long. Whole thing just flows. Like it starts off with breaking Dom, then you get the train heist, then you get the introduction of the team, then you get Hobbs coming in and doing his whole like beefy government agent thing, and then you have that shootout where Hobbs realizes that like maybe he's been wrong this whole time, and it feels like there is like one really good action set piece, but it's not all action set pieces. You do still have the crew hanging out, Han falling in love. Like, I don't know, man. I really love it. I just really love it. I think it flows the best out of any Fast and Furiouses, and I think you get the best sense of who these characters are because they're not superheroes yet. Like, they're still just really good, average-ass people who became so good at what they do that they can pull this off, but they're not, like, as we talked about in the other movies, like, not like shoving nuclear warheads out of the path. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not at that level yet. They're still just like super good at like cracking this code and figuring out how to get all this money. And like, I really love heist movies. So for me, this feels like the one that is most a heist movie and the one that pulls it off in the most satisfying way.
What I love most about your description is that in describing what you love about this movie and one, I can also completely see why you love Seven, because Seven, in a lot of the ways, a lot of the things that you like about this movie and the first movie, about the finality, about like all those elements, it's like, yeah, Seven kind of feels that way too.
And it's because of the tragedy, obviously. Like, you know, I do really feel like the franchise could have ended with Seven, because I so strongly, like, I actively dislike Eight. Like, I don't know if there's anything I really enjoy about Eight, just because I feel like Eight becomes very generic. Having a internationally renowned hacker as a bad guy, to me, is very generic. Like, as these stories became bigger, I feel like they sort of lost like the magic of the core group. But like, you guys were very on point. Like, in the beginning of this movie, when it's Brian and Dom and Mia, like, there is such a like fierceness to the bond that the three of them have. And like, it's great when everybody else comes in, like, it's funnier and like you get more opportunity for group dynamics. And like, I love when they're all razzing each other, when they're trying to outspeed the camera. Like, there's a lot of that stuff that's great, like group dynamic stuff. But like, the three of them together is also so good. And I just feel like we lose those like very specific character details after a certain point in this franchise. But five is like the zenith of all of that stuff.
Yeah, all really well said.
Five is loved by a lot of people, and I agree with you. Like, it's way up there for me, and for these reasons, it's a nice in between. Like, they're just really good at being normal people. They haven't ascended that, and we've talked a lot, Joey and I, that like, we don't know how they're going to keep topping it. If Hobbs and Shaw was like, you're fighting a virus that's going to kill everyone and like evil corporation, like what is the final boss in this trajectory? Like, we've gotten there, and they've had to top it over and over again. So like, where are they going to go?
Yeah, and I'm nodding along because to me, like, I really do feel like when everything and this is sort of like why I don't love our current like comic book superhero cinematic worldview. I just feel like you lose something when you're saving the world like every time.
Mm-hmm.
And these movies have become saving the world every time. And so at a certain point, it's like, I really don't know where they go. And so when I joke about going to space, it's like, well, maybe there's something new in space that they can do, because a lot of stuff that they've done on Earth is like the biggest of the big. So like, where do you go from there? But like, there are things about the other movies that I like. Like, I like that we get more sort of like foes for Letty. I love Gina Carano, and I loved her character, and just like being like a more Letty version of Letty. Like, that was sort of enjoyable. And so there are other things, like, I don't necessarily dislike anything except for 8. It's just that 5 is like everything perfectly packaged together.
Yeah. I also just have written down here that you said about breaking Dom out in the beginning, and I was just thinking, Joe, to your heart's content, that the end of 4 and the beginning of 5 are basically Breaking Dom Part 1 and Breaking Dom Part 2. So it's Twilight Forever. There's a crossover. There's the synergy that we've been looking for.
What if Jordana Brewster rage quit Fast and Furious and Kristen Stewart replaced her?
I would love it. I'd be okay. I mean, I love Mia. I am Mia. I know that, but I mean, I like Kristen Stewart a lot. So
they do a full like new Aunt Viv situation, and they just like don't address it at all. She's just like new Mia.
There's like a 20-year age difference.
Yeah, and they don't look anything alike. So like, I would just like them to bring her in and be like, "Damn, Mia." So like, and then Roman's like, "You look a little different." She's like, "I know."
Oh my God.
New haircut, and like tosses her hair.
What's funny though is like, I always think like, who else could join this franchise? Because like, this one also does such a good job of like acknowledging where the franchise has been in a way that feels very natural, like bringing in everyone who has come before. And like, Letty's absence is obvious. Like, I really love Michelle Rodriguez, but I do think that they have struggled to figure out how to write her after bringing her back. So in this one, it's almost like her absence, like, it sucks and I miss it, but at least then you're not just dealing with like 3 movies of like amnesia storyline. This is still like, okay, so like we're going to incorporate some new people. We're going to acknowledge where this franchise has been. And I feel like this is really the start of like how interconnected it gets to be, but like interconnected in a way that still feels like really cheeky and fun versus the interconnection that's then going to be like the US government being like, save us. Like this is still just like, okay, all these people are tight. They all know each other. When they go to get new cars, Brian and Dom are recognized because they are low-key famous, but it's not weird. It makes sense. All of the characters, like how people react to them, also makes sense in this movie. Like I love when Hobbs says, like, we never let them get into cars. Like, yeah, don't let them get into a car. That's a bad idea. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And that this is terrible, but that Vince actually dies, that's fine. Because then you get that sense of like his arc closed, like he came back, he did some heroic shit, and we get that opportunity of like we closed the circle on that character. And this franchise now so rarely does that it's nice that they did it, I thought, in a very emotional way.
Okay, so we say that a lot. The family's gotten really big that they need to start killing some people off, right?
Oh yeah.
They need to, like, just for the gravity of it and to like just trim it down. Who do you pick to kill off next? Who would you be fine seeing go?
Roman, like 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, Roman's an obvious choice.
Roman's an obvious choice who, to be perfectly frank, I don't think has like much emotional impact. I think if you were really a heartbreaker, you would actually kill Han.
Well, we did, and then we unkilled him.
Right.
Oh, so you're saying like perma kill him in 9?
Yeah.
Like dead, see the body like beheaded or something.
Yes. Yeah, well, I mean, like not like to that degree, but yeah, like I think actually killing Han would have like some real emotional weight.
I don't think we can kill him again. I think it's kind of a cop-out. I think we have to kill somebody new.
But who else has the same level of emotional impact? If you kill Mia, that's incredibly fucked up because we know that Paul Walker is dead. R.I.P. Paul. So, like, killing Mia is just like
doesn't play well.
Doesn't
we already
play well.
Killed Letty once.
You already killed Letty.
I think we're gonna get maybe rid of 2 people. Like 2 minors equal 1 major. You know what I mean? Like if we kill off like 2 lower tier characters, it'll be like the same impact as like a Mia dying.
I mean, you could kill the character that Natalie Emmanuel plays because I don't even remember
like
her
Ramsey
name.
and Roman like at the same time.
And that's how they get together. They go out in a blaze of glory.
Oh yeah, they like she finally kisses him as like as it's going down.
But I also think it's one of those things too where it's like part of me feels like the optics of that are bad because like the characters that they've added are like the non-white characters.
Yeah.
So I also think
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
This is another thing that we play. Like you actually can't kill off the minor tier characters without it looking pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard too because like now that they've made them all like superhero level, it's like how could any of these people, and like you guys have said, you've brought back Letty, you've brought back Han, who do you believably kill? You know,
no one. It's Dom. Like Dom got to go at the end. At the end of 10, Dom's gone. That's got to be the play.
What if you kill Dom at the end of 9 and then 10 is like a time jump soft reboot?
No, they said they're finishing at 10. And I kind of believe that.
But I just mean in terms of like that would actually sort of be interesting to me. If like you did a soft reboot with like one of their kids, because now
we've been clamoring for that too. Like Dom's kid and Brian's kid come together and they just start the next wave of fast. Like the end of 10 really has to be Dom's kid and Brian's kid like getting a car together. Like that has to be the end of 10. So we could just like start this thing all over again.
Right. That would be fine. Or like if they hate each other, do we have that Brian dies and that like Brian's son blames Dom? And that starts like a familial rivalry. I mean, like there's like a lot of different ways that they could play it. It's just I feel like 9 and 10, it's like where do you go? Like I don't know. And can we not bring back Scott Eastwood like that? Like don't do that. Just don't.
Who's Scott Eastwood?
That's Little Nobody.
Oh yeah,
fair. Terrible. Yeah, don't bring that guy back. He sucks.
I will say on the topic of loss and bringing people back that I feel like Vince's death in this one, Joe, hit me harder than it ever has before. I think because of our Fast and Furious Minute, I think that because we're so close to Vince minute by minute in the first movie that I feel like him leaving here. I think it's also like what Roxana was saying, like the finality of it that feels like different in the world, but it's also like, oh, like it's hitting harder this time. It's weird.
It is weird.
Vince occupies that space where like Vince isn't wrong in the first one. You know, like
No, he was right the whole time.
he was right the whole time.
He's the
So
best
like,
friend Dom has. He's
right.
the only friend telling him the truth the whole time.
I think a lot about the helicopter rescue scene in the first one and how good that is. I feel like that's the best acting that Vin Diesel has done in any of those movies. When he's listening to Paul Walker make the phone call to get a helicopter there for Vince, like Dom's outright fury in that moment is, I think, like the best performance that Diesel has actually had. Because after a certain point, it just feels like Vin Diesel's just playing himself in the same way that Dwayne
It's this
Johnson.
one. I think 5 is it. I think 5 is the turning point. Like when
I think it's 6, actually. But tell me why you think it's 5.
he does a lot more groaning and grunting in 5, and specifically when I was watching like the chain, when he like comes and gets the chain back from Elena in this one this time, I was like, that's it. Like this is where he's like, okay, now I'm just this person in these movies from here on out. It just gets progressively like stronger, where he's just like, ugh. But like when he like goes to pick up the chain, he was like, ugh, like I needed to, and like does like the really throatiness, and I was like, okay, we haven't gotten to like that part yet. Like in 4, like we're not there yet. And even in the This Is Brazil, I'm like, okay, cool, we're not there yet. But it's like specifically like when he gets the chain, he turns, and that's his whole his character arc from there on out.
So the chain is the problem.
No, the chain's not the problem.
The chain is the solution. The chain is
the solution. He needs to what is it like? He needs to remove the spell from the chain or something. He needs to like, yeah, he needs to exercise it.
Hey, Roxana, who do you think would win in a fight, Dominic Toretto or Iron Man?
That's a terrible. Ugh, God. Can I say neither? Can
Three-way
I say
fight: Batman, Iron Man, Dom Toretto. Who wins?
Can I say that John Wick beats them all?
Sure.
Can I say that?
That's fair. Yeah, you're allowed to say whatever you want. Yeah.
I think the most romantic moment in any film in the last 10 years is John Wick stabbing that guy in the chest and watching the life slowly drain out of his soul because in the red circle, like just, oh boy, it's just the most intimate moment you could possibly imagine.
I think that like Dom and John Wick both have like very similar fighting styles. Like Dom is willing to like throw a punch and get very up close and personal with you to like make this go down. Iron Man always seems to me like he always wants to do stuff from a distance.
Iron Man is the Shaw. He's like, so at the end of 7, right, where like you thought it was gonna be a street fight, you're goddamn right. Like Dom is John Wick, I guess, and Shaw is Iron Man. He'd rather shoot from afar and use technology.
Yeah, which there's part of me that's like, all right, buddy, like don't show off. Like, can we do this like the old-fashioned way? There are still so many things about Dom in 5 where he is like a real person, but you're definitely right that at the end, like when he goes and he gets the necklace back, I definitely feel like that's when he becomes more of this like like everything is just like a sort of monotonous grunting reaction. That's definitely true. It's definitely the end of 5.
I mean, is it an acting choice or is it sort of the accumulation of like that is the thing, the only like real like tangible memory he has of Letty, who he presumes is dead?
So it would like undo, and it doesn't undo.
I don't know.
Yeah, like he doesn't go back to being a different person. Like when Letty comes back, like he very much still plays. I just think that
although it does seem like in the trailer for 9 that he is softer.
I think softer because of fatherhood, though.
Yes. Yeah, but I mean that's the same thing that happened to Brian though. Like Brian and Mia, like Brian was always like this neurotic, like strung out whatever cop, and then he became a dad and he kind of mellowed out. And I think that might be the same thing for Dom.
I think he's a lot mellower in 5. Like I think he's just more mellow in 5 regardless, even before he finds out that she's pregnant. Like I think that they seem a lot more stable in their relationship in 5. And he just seems like more willing to protect her. I also think in 5 you get a sense that like, and you got this more in 4, and 5 has sort of moved past it. But I think in 5 you get the realization that like Brian regretted some shit and now he's really just trying to be there. Like he's trying to be present for both Dom and Mia. And I think that's what adds to that like tightness of the 3 of them in the beginning. But I feel like once you get past 5 and then just like everybody becomes family and Dom is so much like the patriarch of this family, I never really feel like he's a member of the family anymore past 5. I feel like he's like the leader, and that changes the dynamics of how that character is played. 5 is the last time that it really feels like he's rolling with them rather than like directing them.
Interesting.
No, I like that. That's an interesting perspective, and I like it.
One thing that Joe, we've been talking about in the minute a little bit. Remember we were talking about like with a prayer, like Roxana, an idea that we had, sort of like a theory that we kicked around, was that the Christianity, like there's been, we had a past guest on here who's written for Yahoo, and she was talking about how like Dom is kind of like a Christ-like figure, and there's all these comparisons, and like the necklace is this embodiment of Christianity and all this different stuff. And we were talking about in the minute, like wondering if maybe Mia was the central focus of like where the family, like why they pray before meals, like, and especially in the last movie, like in 4, where he comes back and then Dom takes the first bite or whatever. Mia's like, Dom, you know the rules, like you have to say grace. And I was wondering, because we hear in this one, Brian's like, tell me about your dad, and that's when he's like, we talked about it on the minute a couple weeks ago, Joe, where it's like he always used to throw a barbecue after blah blah, like after church, and if you didn't go to church, you didn't get barbecue. But so it maybe feels like Mia inherited, like, and not only did her dad spend a lot of time with her doing homework, but maybe she also got her Christian values from her dad. Like it feels like that's kind of where, like, to sort of reinforce our theory, it could be that.
I think so too.
I think that's probably possible. I mean, I also think, again, just in terms of like family, I think it's like one of the most like recognizable elements of family is like the opportunity to all be able to sit down together and share a meal. There's a unifying feature of that the movie has built up to like such an almost like holy ritual. I mean, it's very noticeable in 8, like who they allow into the family table. Like it's a big deal. Definitely wonder. I mean, that's a very good question. Like, who is the one who is more faithful here? And sort of also like, how does that guide their values?
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, it's sort of a little bit of like a Robin Hood sort of situation. Like they're stealing from corporations and like they're wild young kids or whatever. And then by 5, they're obviously like doing the heist for themselves, which like is fine, but it's still like mostly self-centered. But then by the end of it, it's like, yeah, we're saving the world. And that then definitely becomes Christ-like in terms of like, this is our responsibility to be able to do this. So it's sort of interesting to see how that has transformed, but like it's very within the Christian tradition for like characters to come back to life and all of that sort of like, if you have enough faith in something, it can make it happen. I mean, we've seen like 2 characters now come back from the dead.
Yeah.
Like Easter's really soon. Like that's some real shit. So yeah, so that's definitely interesting. But I don't remember. Like, did their mother die? Did their mother leave? I don't remember the Toretto mother backstory.
Do we know?
No, I don't think we do.
That feels to me like a depressing oversight.
What we know about the dad, what we presume about the dad, is that he was in a racing accident and he like slammed into a brick wall or something and presumably died. And that's happened some indeterminate amount of time before the first movie. And we're thinking, based on like set locations and filming locations, and like that we're going to get some kind of flashback possibly to that in 9. So we might get more about the mom too, but we have just kind of like a vague, like it makes sense in this movie why they're talking about Dom's dad, because Brian's becoming a dad, and like he should want to know about the entire Toretto family, but I think he's just like, I'm worried about becoming a dad. I don't know how to become a dad. I don't remember my dad. Tell me about your dad. And it's like a very personal dilemma there. So I understand why he's not asking about the mom, but in the greater scheme of things, the greater scale of things, like with family such a core tenet in all of this, why don't we know more about the mom?
I think because she must have died when they were like super young or something. That's what it always felt like to me.
She died giving birth to Jacob, that massive baby.
Right. John Cena. Dun, 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 dun. He just comes out.
Where is Jacob in the conversation? Like, not to derail the conversation we were having, but like, where is Jacob in the conversation when like Dom's talking about like he helped Mia with homework and he was around for barbecue? Like, where's Jacob at?
Because what could have happened. This is the only thing that I could imagine. I'm sorry I cut you off, but the only thing I could imagine is if the mom left and she was pregnant and John Cena didn't grow up with them.
Oh, interesting.
That's a really good play. I like that. I was thinking it was like his stepbrother and like his dad had like a secret affair or something that they find out about here.
That might be what they do, because I feel like we've never, it's actually, there is very much an argument to be made that like the series severely limits its female characters. Like Mia only becomes Brian's wife and romantic partner, and Letty's personal development has stalled out because so much of it is just in relation to her connection to Dom and
Right.
like remembering who she was, all that sort of stuff. But I feel like you get that most obviously in the fact that like we don't even know their mom's name. They never have, like you said,
Well, we
never
don't know
even-
their dad's name either, but yes.
but they have all these memories of their dad. I mean, if we go by that faith argument, then like a lot of their core principles as adults are shaped by their father. But to not even say like our mom died or like she left or
Right.
like they got a divorce or like
Yep.
whatever, you know? So like the only thing I could think is like if you're making John Cena their brother somehow, then maybe we're gonna get some sort of like tragic story like the mom had left and like they had a secret brother. I mean, like I don't know, but like they've done so much to be like it was Letty and Mia and Dom growing up together. It was the three of them that I don't know how you fit a brother into that. But do we know, does he call Dom his older brother or his younger?
No, all we know is that Letty says Dom, like they're brothers or whatever. But like we don't know. Like
Okay.
that also could be metaphor. I mean, probably not. It'd be a real weird cop out or a misdirection if they were metaphorical brothers. But Jacob is Dom's brother is all we know, and that's not from Dom's mouth.
Yeah.
It's from Letty's mouth.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I could think because then that solves two problems. It solves your mom problem and it solves the who the hell is John
It's a
Cena?
smart writing move. I like it. As like
I just realized, pausing for a second, and like for a future lap when we have Nico and Kevo on the next lap, and then we have whoever on the next after that. The way that we're having this conversation now, and like Roxana, you inspired me. This just like the conjecture here, right? Now that 9 has been delayed for a year, what I want to do is, in addition to bringing the people through the movies in order, I want to, in their quote exit interview, right, Joe, like we had with Kara, I want to live watch the F9 trailer with them and hear the reactions in real time. And like
nice.
it's so much of like what we're like in retrospect, like the retrofitting that we were talking about at the beginning of this interview or the beginning of this conversation, right? Like
Yeah.
so much of this has been wonderfully retrofitted. To hear essentially their brains break in real time is going to be such a joy because we will like by that point have had like a year to sort of digest the fact that Han is not dead, the fact that there is a brother, like all of this. And I want to hear, like, we just spent 18 weeks or whatever talking about these movies, and none of that is true now? Like, all of this is different? Like, what is happening?
Watching the trailer with Rachel when I didn't tell her what happened was so incredible. She was just like, no.
Roxana, in terms of 9, where do you fall on that? Are you, I mean, obviously you love Han. Are you happy that he's back? Or, to your point that 2 characters have come back from the dead, are we undermining the credibility of the franchise?
I think, to be perfectly frank, like we lost the credibility a while ago, but that's sort of what makes it fun. I have a very uneasy relationship with them because I do think that they get less credible. To go back to our idea of like taking yourself seriously, I feel like all of them, aside from 8, didn't really take themselves that seriously. There's like a certain campiness to the whole endeavor that's like very fun and refreshing. And then 8 was like so serious, aside from the baby and the plane, that it just felt a little bit like a slog. But I think you can't bring back Han and not have it be fun. Like his energy is just so different from everybody else in the cast that I'm very hopeful to have him back. But now I'm worried because I said killing him would like be a big deal, that I'm like, are you gonna bring him back just to kill him again? I would be so sad. I might, like, I cried when he appeared in the trailer. Like I was just like, wait, what? Like, what is happening? Like he walks in like eating something, and I always loved that. I always loved that he was doing the like Brad Pitt in Ocean's movies, just constantly snacking. So like I'm very excited to have him back. So I'm very hopeful to a certain degree that this one will be a little bit more of a return. And I think bringing Han back actually raises an interesting question, because it's like, do you then have Han and Shaw in a room together? Like, how do you now reconcile these various elements of your story? We saw Han's funeral. Like, how do you explain that? Like, so there's a lot of stuff that I wonder, will they like gloss over it, or will we get more flashbacks to sort of flesh out how these things fit together?
They're all very good questions, and I honestly have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. Who knows? But I think the only thing we know is that Charlize is the bad guy again. Like, I think that's the only thing.
Well, here's the bigger question to you. This is, again, sort of like a summation of like our thoughts over the last, say, 2 years of doing this podcast. We were not high on 8 for a lot of the reasons that you point out. Like, we don't like Dom against the family. We don't like the hyper seriousness of it. We don't think that a lot of it feels like Fast and Furious. I don't think that Charlize is a great bad guy in that. I don't think that she's given a lot to do. I think the tippy tappy, I'm going to show them what I can do on a computer, isn't very visually exciting. But the fact that she's coming back for 9 gives me more hope and kind of makes me like 8 more in retrospect. So the question to you, I guess, what do you think of Charlize in 8 as the character, as Cypher? Knowing that she's coming back in 9, change that in any way? And do you think that she is the head of this organization, or do you think there's someone above her? Do you think she ties into Etion at all?
Okay. A lot. So much.
I know, but like, you're the first person in a while that we've had on who has like seen everything that, like, I feel like we're able to dive deep in a way that we haven't really been able to in a while. And like, I feel like I'm hungry for this deep conversation with a new voice, a new mind.
I really did not like Cypher. I
Okay.
didn't like the character. I didn't like Charlize's performance. I apologize in a way because a lot of my reactions to this is just based on like my own political perspective, but I in a lot of ways am very bored of certain like terrorist narrative writing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I just found her motivations very confusing and very boring. And I didn't really understand. I didn't think that they did a very good job explaining why, like, the world's best hacker would be so obsessed with this guy who just drives cars really well. I mean, like, we've gotten to the point now where Dom is essentially a superhero. So once you elevate him to that status, then I sort of understand why Cypher would be so fascinated. I think because they made the stakes so high, I just never bought it. Like, I didn't buy her character and her draw to him. And I honestly just found her performance very monotonous and one note, and like,
Yeah.
We
so
always
much-
argue that that's a lot of writing, though. More
Oh,
so,
definitely. No, she was written in a very
like
flat
bland
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, Charlize is a great actress. I think that Charlize, I don't want to say she rises and falls with the material because I think that's a disservice. But I think that all of her performances that I don't like share the fact that, like, the characters that she is portraying are not very well written, and I just don't think Cypher is very well written. So I don't think that Charlize brings anything to that performance. Like, I don't think she's charismatic. I don't think she's really interesting. Like, it's just very flat to me.
Yeah.
But I also feel like they made her such a huge villain that they couldn't let her be a one movie villain. It didn't make sense for them to be able to dispose of her so quickly. So I get why they are bringing her back for 9, but then again we get to that place of like, F8 made her out to be like the baddest badass that ever was, but then we get Etion, and so I don't know, like, I don't know why she would be working for someone because of how they presented her. But then Etion does have like the anonymous bad guy.
So do you think the voice is Cypher, or do you think the voice is someone else?
I think if the voice was Cypher, then they should have just had it be Cypher. Like, I think we all thought it was Cypher, at least speaking for myself.
I thought it was
it was
yes.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
I thought it was Cypher anyway, and then I was very irritated when they didn't confirm or deny that. Because, like, she's already encountered both Hobbs and Shaw. The fact that neither of them, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think either of them in the movie is like, I wonder if this is Cypher. Like,
Nope.
Hobbs and Shaw weirdly exists in the space where they don't even really acknowledge that it's a Fast and the Furious movie. I don't know why they don't even have some kind of like shout out to the fact of like, hey, we did deal with a major hacker before. Wonder if they could be
The same
connected.
person, yeah.
Right. Weird how that happened.
The weirdest thing about all of that, and I've said this on the podcast a lot, but like, one of the other podcasts that I've done before this one was Watch the Throne, where we watched all of Charlize's movies, and like, I was so in tune with the way that she spoke and the way that she acted, and like, I could hear her delivering the lines as Etion's director. I was like, oh, I hear Charlize in there. And then
Yeah, you hear the rhythm of her voice.
It's the rhythm, it's the word choice, it's the way that she's saying, like, all of it. It's like, oh, that's Charlize. Like, I was like willing to bet a lot of money. And then Joe's wife was like, oh no, it sounds like Ryan Reynolds. And I was like, no, that's stupid. It's not Ryan Reynolds. And then we found out that it actually was Ryan Reynolds. Like, he just did it because he was on set. Like, they just, they needed somebody to record it and they wanted to keep it ambiguous or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's like really disheartening. I still hear Charlize in there. Like I can't not hear that. And I think
Yeah.
that could be, but it is, to your point, it'd be weird that she's masking herself. It is kind of like Hobbs and Shaw is a Fast and Furious movie, not in that universe. It's a very weird, like, it's not their villains, but it's their, I don't know.
It's very weird to me that that movie has an acknowledgement of all the movies that Dwayne Johnson does with Kevin Hart and an acknowledgement of Jason Statham being in the Italian Job, but not an actual acknowledgement of the Fast and Furious franchise. Like, it's very weird. So I agree with you. I did not know that Ryan Reynolds tidbit. That is also sort of disappointing. And I can sort of understand why you would do it, because you don't want it to like leak that Charlize delivered the lines or whatever. But what are we doing here? Like, you guys built up Charlize as like the baddest bad guy. I don't
Yeah.
I don't understand. It got too big. 8 got too big. And so now we're wrestling with how big it is in 9, and I can't even imagine it. Like, I don't even know where it goes. Like, I can't tell. The only like wild theory that I thought of was like, if it actually turns out that like Mr. Nobody or somebody else within the US government is like pulling all the strings, because that sort of ties into the fact that these movies are like a little bit distrustful of like the US government machine. But I also still don't feel like Mr. Nobody is big enough of a character for that to be the case. The only thing I could think is if they do a major swerve and it's Giselle. But like, I don't know.
I think we've said that before, because we pitched everyone to be Etion.
Yeah, we have basically guessed everyone under the sun. I think it would feel like a cop out. I think we've talked about this before. It would feel like a cop out if there is a higher level boss that we don't know. I think that if Charlize is not the CEO, the proverbial, like the metaphorical CEO of this company, whatever, the leader, if there's someone above her, it has to be someone we know. Because if it's just like, and now it's Denzel Washington, it's like, well, like, is it just because it's stunt cast? Like, I don't understand, unless it comes from, like, that was the other thing, that like they didn't want to cast somebody in the voice in Hobbs and Shaw because they were trying to get, like, the rumor was that they were trying to get Keanu and they couldn't get Keanu, and like they maybe wanted to, but like I can see that if like they have the voice, like they show a screen at the end, like it is Keanu Reeves or whatever, then you're like, okay, you've at least established in Hobbs and Shaw that there is this supreme security cyber villain, whatever, in Keanu Reeves, and that then I could believe in 9 or whatever. But now that we've seen these 9 movies, ostensibly Charlize is still the biggest bad of them all, and she's parachuting out of a plane and just on the run somewhere, or in a glass prison somewhere. Like, I don't know, man. Like, it would feel very disingenuous and very cheap if it's somebody that we just straight up don't know by this point.
Yeah, right. It's like, I don't want somebody to swoop in and just be like, oh, it was me along. Like, that's very, very boring. I feel like 8 was just so different from what I've come to expect of these movies that I really can't even wrap my mind around, like, okay, so like, what's the second part of Cypher's plan? If Idris Elba's character was okay, so if Cypher is actually part of Etion, and so the plan with Idris was to make super soldiers, but then how does that align with Dom and his family? Like, Hobbs and Shaw was just such a different beast. There's so much about that movie that I don't understand how that translates into this universe. But like, you introduced Etion, you have to bring that here, don't you? Like, like, I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot.
If I've ever learned anything about wild maniacal plans, step 2 is almost always profit. So I don't know how you get from step 1 to step 2, but step 2 is just profit. Like,
step 3 is profit. Step 2 is question marks.
So then hacks, question
profit.
Marks, profit.
I guess, but I don't know.
But it does feel like if Tej can hack an ATM and steal all that money, it feels like she should be able just to tap into like the Deutsche Bank or whatever and just be like, oh yeah, that's all that money's mine now.
Yeah.
And that's probably true. But do we remember what her motivations were?
We have this argument a lot. It's like, what is her driving force? And it's like, to take over the world.
I think she is anti-human, I think. If I'm remembering right, I think she's kind of like Agent Smith, where like, from the Matrix, where she's like, basically humans are a virus, and like, I don't...
The problem with that is, though, that like, I always sympathize with those characters because I'm like, humanity does suck. You're right. Thanos, sort of right. Aquaman, bad guy character played by Patrick Wilson, sort of right. Eric Killmonger, sort of right. But like Cypher was just like there's nothing about her motivations that like remain in my brain. I think because so much of it was just like her wanting to possess Dom that I remember that part of it, not the like grander taking over the world part of it. I mean, the Fast and Furious wiki, the only quote that they have from her is the because the truth is Dom, I am the crocodile at the watering hole. And I remember that line and just laughing in the theater because I was like, that's not threatening. Like that line is not landing like you guys think it's landing. In your Charlize podcast, did you guys talk about Gringo?
Yes.
Okay. What were your guys' thoughts on Gringo?
I was disappointed in Gringo.
Yeah, I hated that movie. And she was not good in it, so I was curious.
It feels disingenuous, or feels at least weird, if there are two separate, hyper intelligent, hyper tech savvy companies like Etion and whatever Charlize is doing, right? Like it feels like, I mean, I guess, it's all mutually assured destruction, whatever. There could be another one, but it feels like there can't be these two separate, hyper technologically advanced companies that aren't together. I don't know. Like in this world, it feels like it should be the same. It feels like
The same
lazy
evil.
storytelling if it's not.
For me, what the difficulty is that the F8 world did not feel to me like the Fast and Furious world. Like I think fundamentally what it comes down to for me is like it just didn't feel like the same universe. Like it did not feel grounded in the same sort of reality. And I don't mean that just in like the punny way of like she was in that stupid airplane that was like flying all over the world the whole time. I just mean in terms of like F5 is very grounded in Brazil. And then we have like these other like globe-trotting locations. Like we have Cuba and they go to what? They go to Dubai or like the UAE or whatever. Like we have very like recognizable locations, but like so much of F8 is just a little bit of a blur to me because then once they leave Havana, it's like I don't even remember
Like a lot of
where
it
they
in New York,
go.
but in a New York that's not really recognizable.
Yeah, and then they go to like Russia, which like
Yeah, they're in
why?
Russia at the end. They're in Germany for a minute. They're in New York for a lot of it. It does feel like it's globetrotting to what you were saying a while ago about checking off the boxes so that like Russian audience can be like, hey, that's us. But like it doesn't have a sense of place. And that's also what's disappointing. We've talked about before is that the beginning of Fate, the Cuban scene feels Fast and Furious in a way that like as good as any other movie. Like that race in the beginning, the sense of family in that movie, the colors, the music, all of it, and then for it to drop off a cliff from there. And I think a lot of that has to do with the sense of place. It's the Cuba, like it does feel like Cuba to your point, and then the rest of it just like we see the title cards like it's New York, but like there's not really traffic and like it just there's taxis. Okay, sure.
Okay, so like you're telling us that we're here, but we don't actually feel that we're here. And so there was just, like the other villains have felt very tied to place.
Yeah.
Brazil in particular, it's like there were a lot of somewhat culturally limiting stereotypes at play there. Like if you're saying that like most of the Brazilian police force is like corrupt and like bleh, like all that, sort of stuff that we see in American blockbusters, but at least like you also got like a view of the favelas and like how regular people lived. I think F8 suffers from the fact that there are no regular people. So for me, it's very difficult to like connect with what's going on because you don't have a sense of what you guys were saying earlier of like how do other people like view what's happening? Like are there going to be a bunch of civilians that die? Like who are the henchmen? There's just a lot of F8 that is sort of blurry. To return to the original question of like am I hopeful for F9? Like I think I'm hopeful for everything that isn't related to Cypher.
Okay.
Like Dom and Letty, the kid is what, like 2 or 3? Like I think we're going to fast forward to a place where they're like hopefully very much in love with each other again and like we can actually have a little bit of a Letty personality. And that's not to say that she should go back to who she was before because
Right.
a lot of time has passed and she's a different person, but just that she does something. And I think they're going to lean on her more now because Mia is going to probably sort of be like a more background character. But like I'm hopeful for all that stuff. I'm obviously very hopeful about Han, but in terms of like Cypher's big end game, I'm just not super excited for that. But like the John Cena energy, I'm very curious what John Cena brings to a movie like this because like he is usually fairly enthusiastic even in stuff that's crap. This is like a big deal, I feel like, for him
Yeah.
to be in a Fast and the Furious movie. So I'm curious, like, are they gonna actually let him have fun, or is he just gonna sort of be like the scowling heavy that Dominic Toretto will beat in a fight?
And I almost wonder, because I don't think we've talked about it in this regard, because we were saying, like, when we were watching the trailer, like, the first minute and a half or whatever, they're like, Dom's got a brother and it's Jacob, and Joe and I watching separately, like, watching the live premiere or whatever, we're like, holy shit, there's another, like, what is going on? And then Han comes back, you're like, wait, how is that not the twist? Like, the fact that, like, Han is back just, like, makes, like, Jacob almost irrelevant. But I wonder if they were worried that maybe John Cena wasn't enough to carry this movie, and so they wanted to sort of lessen the burden on his shoulders by adding another face of like, oh, well, like 6 is the one with the runway, and 7's the one where Paul dies, and 8 is the one with all the computers, and 9 is the one. Wait, what's the 9? But you can be like, oh, it's the one with John Cena, and it's the one with Han back or whatever. Where like I feel like maybe just having John Cena isn't enough anymore. Like maybe in 10, whenever we get to 10, if 10's one part or 2 parts, maybe you need to add 2 or 3 different things. I don't know.
And I think what I can respect about the franchise is like it does very much feel in tune with its fan base. And I don't know how much more desperate a lot of us could have been for the return of Han. You know, like once you brought Letty back, I think it set the precedence of like, so if somebody can be brought back from the dead, where is Han? Like you've talked, like you guys mentioned, like people fucking love Han. So I think, you know, there was enough, there probably was a little bit of hesitation for Cena. I don't necessarily know if he is a full like cinematic star on his own. So I think you do also need to leverage something for the family. Like you can bring in a new bad guy, but you also need to have some sort of like grounding family force. And that's very much who Han is.
Sure.
And Han and Brian are sort of on the same wavelength, and I would hope that like anybody viewing 8 would realize like Vin Diesel really needs somebody to balance him. It's not going to be The Rock because they hate each other or whatever. So you really need somebody with calming energy to just sort of temper what Vin Diesel is bringing to the table. And Han could do that.
Han can do that. He's got that big Han energy. There's 2 other notes that I want to make in about Fast 5, and I want to play a couple of games at the end. I want to see if you have any other thoughts. But number 1, at the very, very end in the credits scene, when Eva Mendes comes back, and also, where's Eva Mendes? Like, can she come back? I would like to have her back.
Yeah.
I think Ava is just like doing her own thing. Like she has a fashion line now with Macy's. She's like a mom, obviously, and then like her fashion line with Macy's is, I think, very profitable.
I didn't know she had a fashion line with Macy's. That's really cool.
You know, it's one of those things where it's sort of like Jessica Simpson's fashion line, which is somehow worth like $750 million. Is I think like once you find that niche, Ava and Ryan Gosling are very good at just like not playing the Hollywood game when they don't want to.
Still, I think they've still kept their kids' like faces out of everything, right? They're basically like,
I don't even. I think we've only heard their names like twice in a couple of interviews, and like I know her mom lives with them. So like I always think of them because I see like a lot of the celebrities who are like the paparazzi are ruining my life, and I'm like I don't disagree with that. Like I'm sure they are, but like Ryan Gosling for like a solid decade was like the internet's boyfriend, and you never saw him anywhere. So it can definitely be done. They're always the couple that I think about when people complain about like media attention. I'm like, they're doing it pretty well, not being noticed anywhere.
And the my only other, okay, wait, hold on. So I didn't actually make the point. I just sort of got on the track, off track about Eva Mendes and just how much I love Eva Mendes. But at the very end in the credits scene, the best acting, like the most out of character I've ever seen The Rock in any of these movies is him in a golf shirt at the end, not sweating. I was like, he looks so weird here. And I've never noticed how weird he looks just like in that plain black golf shirt, bone dry. I was like, what? This is not the Hobbs that we know.
He doesn't have like a sheen of sweat, and he's not just like drinking egg yolks. Like, what's happening?
And the only other thing that I wrote down this time was that when Mia, it's so dumb. It would never happen, but it's so dumb. When Mia tells Dom and Brian that she's pregnant, and they're both so happy. I think it would have been really funny if Dom just turns to Brian and goes, "You fucked my sister," and then cut away.
They make a lot of awkward jokes after that anyways, though.
Yes, they do.
It's really weird.
I get that, like, it's a very sweet moment. It's like, that's like like I've cried in that scene before too, but like, I don't know why I was thinking about it. But just like Dom, like looking at Brian and being like, wait, What?
Or if he looked at Mia and was like, whose is it? Just like really dry.
Oh, congratulations. Who's the dad? Yeah, exactly.
But so much of the movie, though, like so much of these movies is like Dom and Brian's love story.
Oh, that's what,
That,
yes.
you know, like there's so much about just like the affection between two people who like trust and love each other in a way that like you maybe sometimes don't even get from a romantic relationship. And man, like you feel that in 5. You obviously feel it in 7 because you have to, because the tragedy of it. But they feel closest together in 5. Like they're so concerned for each other. It's like, where's Dom? Dom's not here yet. When's Dom gonna get here? Like, I don't know. I might rewatch it again after we're done.
You can never watch this movie enough times. I think that's what we've learned. Is there any other notes, any other thoughts that you want to share about Fast Five before we figure out what character you are and play a couple other games?
Do you think that Dom would have been better off with Elena?
I just posed this to Joey not too long ago. Is Elena Letty's replacement?
Well, you were also saying in 4 was Giselle being introduced as a Letty replacement.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Because they're kind of it feels like they're auditioning women to replace Michelle Rodriguez.
Yes. Yeah. Do you mean story-wise, or like for fans, or like for like what, in what sense?
In rewatching it, I think to myself, like, did this character ever have a chance? Like,
No.
do you think in Fast Five they were already thinking about bringing Letty back?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the reason that Hobbs picks Elena from the jump is the exact reason why Dom and Elena would never work. Because he picks Elena because she's the one good cop in a city full of crooked ones. And Dom would either corrupt her, and she seems incorruptible. Like if she's not corrupt already, she's not gonna be. For Dom to be so permanently ensconced in the... Although, she wakes up with him in 6, right? And like she doesn't have a problem sleeping with a criminal. I don't know, but like it does feel like eventually she would be like, I can't live this life anymore.
But she is ride or die. Am I remembering incorrectly? Doesn't she die?
She gets killed, yeah. Cypher kills her in 8.
Okay. Like, I feel like ultimately, like, she does turn out to be ride or die for Dom, which is sort of surprising. Yeah, it's just something when I was rewatching it. It's like, it does very much feel like Giselle and Elena are like variations of the Letty type.
Yeah.
But I couldn't figure out, like, if they really intended her to be long term.
The sad part here is that it feels like Dom's one true love is Letty, obviously, but it feels like maybe Elena's one true love is Dom.
That's
No,
sad.
hers was her husband, but he
that's
died.
true. Yes, that's true.
It's a love over loss.
It's a
type
rebound thing for both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she definitely, like, so much of her guiding motivation is her husband's death.
Yes.
So it's definitely one of those things where it's like, you can love each other and, like, be happy or whatever. But is it your person? They're probably not each other's person.
So, first off, we have to figure out what character you are. So, here we go. There are 7 questions, multiple choice. No wrong answers again. Just whatever you feel best describes you as a person, however you want to position yourself to the world. No wrong answers. So, here we go.
Okay.
Question number 1. How fast are you? NASCAR, roller coaster, Lamborghini Murcielago, Toyota Prius, Vespa, or Razor scooter?
Roller coaster.
Cool.
Question number 2. You know it's coming. How furious are you? The Hulk, Kylo Ren, Christian Bale on that one movie set that one time, Mel Gibson, Charlie Brown, or Jack McBrayer?
It has to be the Hulk because sometimes when I get very irritated, I jokingly say that I'm going to Hulk out, but it's a joke because it's like sort of true. There's a lot to be angry about.
There
like,
is
in
a
the
lot
world.
to be
That's a very
angry
good
about.
question. A very, very good point. All right, Roxana, we're having a barbecue. How are you helping? Are you manning the grill? Are you saying grace? Are you kicking back with a beer or a bourbon? Are you babysitting? Are you being the entertainment? Are you sneaking a snack? Or are you playing basketball?
Is there an option that is cooking but not manning the grill?
I think you can say that. I think that's probably in the spirit of that answer.
Yeah, because I can like do all the sides and everything. I just don't trust myself at the grill.
I think that's
But
fair.
I'm definitely not babysitting.
Is it
and I would-
dangerous? Is the grill dangerous for you?
I'm not a very good, like, I'm not great at cooking meat. Like, I always do it a little bit under or a little bit over.
Were you
but,
veg
like,
for a while?
No, like, I would probably be hard at work, like, making all the other sides. I just wouldn't
Okay.
want to be responsible for kids, and I would not be praying.
Okay, fair.
Yeah. But I would want to help.
Okay.
So,
You've got time to kill. What are you doing? Are you grabbing a bite, working on your car, hanging out with friends, socially distanced, of course, drinking a beer or a bourbon, working out, or working on your computer?
I'm working on my computer. Let's be real.
Okay. Describe your wedding. You're never getting married. It's just you and your partner. It's you and your families. It's a backyard country affair. Everyone you know is there, or I don't remember.
Those are good options. I would say it's just me and my partner.
Okay.
Nice.
I think we are rocketing toward an inevitability here with the character. Roxana, congratulations. You just won the lottery. What are you buying? My own garage? A private plane? I'm gambling it all away? My childhood home? A fleet of cars? Or a new life?
Oh, a new life. Come on.
And last question, what's your drink of choice? And I'm sorry, bourbon is not on this list. We do not have a scoring metric for that. Belgian ale, Corona, something fruity, water, whatever's cheapest, or just whatever you're having.
Something fruity.
Nice.
Because that might have bourbon in it.
True.
Probably rum, but either is fine.
Well, I will say that those last two answers did not move the needle on the character you were after the first five, but you had such a commanding lead that there was really only one character you could possibly be. Joe, who is she? Do you know?
Letty.
No.
What?
She's Dom.
Oh, no. That's hilarious.
Well, I mean, answer-wise, they're
Very
pretty
similar.
close.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, so Letty, so we have a scoring system, and I don't remember what the maximum is, but you got 57 points for Dom. You only got 26 for Letty. You're not very Letty.
Man. Oof.
I smelt a lot of Letty there, but
You're a lot of Dom, you're a lot of Hobbs, and you're a lot of Ramsey, but you're mostly
Man.
Dom.
Ooh, this is an interesting turn.
Let's see if this describes you. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Your stoic attitude is intimidating, your cool demeanor under pressure is inspiring, and your expertise under the hood is envied, but all these pale in comparison to your loyalty to your family. You may claim to live your life a quarter mile at a time, but there's nothing you wouldn't do for the people in your life, and at the end of the day, nothing makes you happier than throwing something on the grill and sharing a few Coronas, or bourbons, with your familia. And you drive like the wind, blows.
God damn it. That is kind of accurate, actually.
they're good.
Those are pretty good. That's a good one.
You can't imagine how long this took me and Joe to do the point-based system. And shout out once again to our listener, Wes, for writing the descriptions for all the characters. It's a great answer. I think Dom is a very... nobody's going to be upset that they're Dom.
No.
True.
I mean, nobody's going to be like, I don't know, I watched this whole franchise, but I just don't like Dominic Toretto. From which characters are you choosing? Is it like the whole family, or
Well,
like
we have
what
20 characters right now. We've been toying with the
my
idea.
God.
We were going to, when 9 came out, we were going to add characters for Hobbs and Shaw and 9, but since 9 got delayed, this sort of like that just got pushed off too. We might add Hobbs and Shaw, but there's 20 different characters that we have scored, ranked, and that Wes wrote things for. And I think we've probably gotten maybe about 8 or 10. Like there's still a bunch of people have not gotten yet, because we only developed it maybe like a year and a half ago, and like for a while we only had like one guest. So there's a lot more out there that the listeners have not heard.
That's so all-encompassing. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Who surprised you the most? Like, what character surprised you the most that somebody got?
Well, I'm a Mia, and that's very obvious. Joe is a Dom also, and I think that's relatively spot on.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to fight because there can only be one, but sure.
We have to contractually each take an equal number of punches, though.
And we also can't shoot together. Sorry.
Yeah.
I feel like Kyle getting Suki is not exactly on brand.
No, definitely not. Wildly off.
I think everybody else is pretty close. Kyle getting Suki is not great, and
I love that you even have Suki as a choice. That's great.
Bend over, boy. And then Kate, Kate, you work with Kate. Do you think Kate is a Mia, or is Kate not a Mia?
Kate is not. Well,
she kind of is. Like I thought that was like I thought it stood out negatively at first, but I'm like, I kind of share a lot of personality traits, I think, with Kate, and I'm a Mia, and so I think Kate might be a Mia too.
I could see that. I mean, I think that Kate is hilarious in a certain way that you don't think of Mia being. Like, I think Kate can be like a little zany and a little bit wacky, but I also think that she is very principled in the same way that Mia is. Like, you respect Mia because, like Dom, she has a code and she doesn't deviate from it. And I feel like Kate is very much like that.
Those are all very good things. Kate, I hope you're here. I hope you're listening to this.
Right? This jerk, she definitely should.
The next game we're going to play is this Ain't No 10-Second Race, aka Boy Do We have a podcast for you.
Ooh.
So now, Roxana, I would like you to go on twitter.com.
Okay.
And the goal of this game is that we are going to send out tweets from our @TooFastTooForever Twitter account to people on Twitter that we find who don't know about the show, who conceivably could like the show. So people tweeting about Fast and Furious, people tweeting about the actors, people tweeting in search of podcasts. Here's the thing. It's very difficult to be good at this game. There's a scoring system
very,
based
very
on
hard.
likes, retweets, replies, people emailing. We're bad at this game. So there's absolutely no pressure. But I'm going to review last episode's tweets while you and me and Joe all go on Twitter, find a tweet, and go from there. I found last time, Joe, at Duchess Dank1, Duchess Dank on Twitter said, guaranteed to cry moments. Number 1, when Jesse Chad Lindbergh took a bullet. Number 2, the look on Han's face when Mia asked after Giselle. And number 3, the look on Dom's face at the end of Furious 7. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. It got a like, but from Jason, not from Duchess Dank.
Yeah, it doesn't count. We talked about this. Fan likes don't count.
Yes. Unfortunately. All right. You found the really good one. Texan Pride at Astros_Arsenal about how death, basically it's a 3-tweet thread about how death is meaningless in the Fast and Furious franchise. Where's Giselle?
Yeah.
Braga should be dead. Isn't Deckard and Owen should be dead? Aren't. 2 people came back from the dead. Where Giselle at string? Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Nothing. This podcast unknowingly is catered almost directly to him. And yet, nothing. And then, oh boy, I don't know what this is all about. Our guest last time, Liz, found MMA Fighting on Twitter at our MMAfighting.com at MMA Fighting. UFC champion John Jones arrested for aggravated DWI, negligent use of firearm in Albuquerque. Boy, do we have a podcast
for you.
It got 3 likes. One is Paul Cho, one is Jason, and one is Liz herself. So I was like, how could it possibly get 3 likes? But it
didn't.
They're not real likes. So anyway, okay. So now, again, still no pressure. If you found a tweet that you think is good.
Mine is from Brian Metolius, at Brian Metolius, Metoli. Just go to our one and find it. Brian says, okay, I'm officially caught up with the Fast and Furious saga. Just saw the trailer for F9, and holy crap, I get why everyone is so bummed about its delay. Justice is coming.
Boy, do we.
We have a podcast for you. He'll never respond. Don't worry.
I know, it's not feels like one that, again, is a perfect tweet to respond to.
Oh, I know.
I have...
Oh, somebody's drifting down my street right now.
Oh, cool.
No, I have found this tweet from Davey at Yip Deceiver. Wow, okay. From 49 minutes ago, where he tweeted, I want 9 Fast and Furious movies starring just Han.
Perfect.
I'm very seen by that tweet. Thank you, Davey.
Boy,
I agree.
we
have a podcast for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now I found one that this is, it is Matt Lohman at Matt Lohman on Twitter. Started on April 1st and just says, guess I'll start working my way back through the Fasts and the Furiouses, #quarter-teen mile. And then it's just a thread of him watching the movies. And I'm going to get to the end and just go to the very last one and just retweet. I'm going to retweet the first one and the last one and just say, boy, actually, no, I'm just going to do the first one. Well,
just the first one.
And then, boy, do we have a podcast for you, because this person has sent out like 30 tweets. And
nice.
Oh my gosh. Like he is deep into this movie in a way that I feel like he would appreciate what we do here. Like, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
I would think so.
But the question is, will he? Probably not, because I'm very bad at this game. Now, Roxana, the last game we have is called Dude, What's My Car? So the premise behind this game is that I know nothing about cars. I'm actually learning. I feel like I'm learning.
You're doing better, man.
Here and there. And I'm able to think, I know stancing now. That's a thing. As time goes on, I'm learning a little bit, but I'm still mostly an idiot about cars. And so what this is that our listeners email in pictures of cars, and I try to get Joe to guess them based on descriptions that aren't, I try to be helpful, but they're generally not helpful. Would you like to help me give clues? Or would you like to help Joe guess clues?
I will help give clues.
Okay. So I'm sending this to you. So this is from listener Melissa, supporter on Patreon. Thank you so much. Patreon.com/TooFastTooForever. She sent this in on February 20th. The subject was car pick. She says, hey, Joey and Joe and guest, ? So she's saying hi to you. Here's a nice looking car I saw on Reddit. All right. So Joe, this car is Japanese in origin.
Ooh, you gave me the country of origin first.
And it is black.
Okay.
It is a 2-door coupe, I think. I don't exactly know what a coupe is.
Yeah. Yes. 2-door.
2-door
Okay.
for sure. Very long.
Very long front end.
Yes. It kind of looks like if a guy was lying down, or a woman, was lying down in a recliner, it kind of looks like that.
Okay.
The wheel wells look like they have visible like screws or bolts that adhere, like they're not masked. It's a very strange aesthetic look there.
They have
Okay.
like super aggressive rims.
Mhm.
In that, yeah, it's very, it almost looks like a celestial body in the tire area.
Okay.
Some kind of source of energy.
It looks like a pulsar. I don't know what a pulsar looks like, but it looks like what I would imagine a pulsar looks like.
Okay.
We're seeing it from like a kind of a 3/4 angle, so I can't see the tail lights, unfortunately. In the front, there are the traditional headlights on the top, then there's like fog lights underneath. The body of the car looks like it's from the 70s, which it is, but the front of the car looks much more modern.
Looks more modern.
I think it has sort of like an aggressive front end grate situation, but otherwise it looks like a very vintage sports car.
Yes. It looks like the kind of car that would be a convertible, but this car is not a convertible.
Okay.
This particular model. I mean, it could be, maybe. I don't know. Gas tank is on the back right side, all the way back.
Cool.
There's not a lot. So there's the rear tire, and then there's maybe like 10 or 12 inches. Like there's not a lot of car behind the back tire. Like this is.
But the front is very long.
Yes.
The front is super long.
Like I would say the windshield starts like past the midway point going back. Like just past, but like past, like in the back half. Like the whole, like basically the entire people part of the car is in the back half of the car.
It's a super long front end.
Yep.
It's a Japanese car.
Yep.
72.
Yep.
Is it from a manufacturer I would know?
Yes, and here's the top comments on Reddit. I'm not
Okay.
even into cars, but that's a good-looking car. And the top reply to that says, "Same. I want to fuck that car." So
You want
it's a
to
good-looking
fuck
car.
that car.
Yeah.
Full Cameron Diaz in The Counselor having sex with the car.
My friend loves The Counselor, and every time he talks about it, I'm like, do I like that movie? I don't think that I do, but I do think of the like razor wire collar at the end of that movie, like
All
once
the
a
time.
week. Just
Yeah,
I can't get it out of my
think
brain.
all the time. Yeah, I think it was a lot of really good components in a bad movie.
Is it a Toyota?
No,
Is it a Mazda?
no,
Honda?
nope,
Subaru?
nope.
It's a car company that I would know that's Japanese though. Nissan.
Yep.
Is it like an older Skyline? Was there
Not a Skyline. No.
an older than 70?
I wonder. Hold on. Let me see if this car has been in any Fast and Furious movies.
I looked but couldn't find anything. I will say again, celestial body. It's a clue. It's very helpful.
Okay.
Oh, so okay. I don't think it's in the movies, but Sung Kang owns one of these cars,
Oh, that's very cool.
and there's a very and like, oh boy, he looks so cool in this car too.
It's an old
I-
Nissan with the celestial body name.
He does look really cool next to that car.
I don't know. What is it? A Jupiter? Moon?
No, it's
What?
there is a celestial body in the name. The first half
What?
is not. Do you give up?
Yeah, what is it?
It's a 1972 Nissan Datsun 240Z.
Oh, well, Datsuns were is just like another name for Nissan. Datsun was just like the brand name of Nissan in other places.
Then the car is the 240Z. But both Reddit and
It was owned by Nissan, like Lexus or Toyota. You know what I mean? Like
Ion, it's like the Bronx Beast situation all over again.
exactly. Yes.
It's a 240Z is what you're trying to guess.
It's a 240Z. Yes. That's cool. These are really cool. My friend had a 240Z, not a 70s one. And this is actually a car that I was like super interested in when I was like re-looking at like cool old cars that like I remember from my childhood that like I would want to buy now.
This is like your Barbie dream car of your childhood.
No, not that. Like the late 80s, early 90s, they had a Nissan 300ZX, which is like the evolution of these, right? Like they were all just, it was like 240Zs, then there was like 300Z, and now they're the 350 or something, the 320, 350. So yeah, I was actually just looking at 300ZXs because they're like one of the coolest looking cars that I remember like being stoked on as a kid that also like aren't stupid expensive right now. Like you could get a nice one for like 12 grand or something. You know what I mean? Like, and you can get like a shitty one that you could like build for like a couple grand.
This is unprecedented.
What?
All three people that we tweeted at have already liked the tweet.
Really? All of
And
them?
Joe, the person you tweeted at, replied and said 10 out of 10 name.
Ooh.
So far you have 6 points, and
Well
we
done.
each have one. But like this, like Roxana, this doesn't happen.
Well,
That's very cool. One turning point.
sometimes dreams come true.
Also, this picture is awesome. Thank you, Melissa, for sending it in. The 240Z is really, really, really cool.
All right, and so what I'm going to do, Roxana sent another tweet. I'm going to do this one too because there's no harm, no foul here. This is not going to count for points, but Roxana, if you want to read the second one, because this is another tweet worth sharing on air.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a good one. This is from John Lee Brody, who is a filmmaker, nerd, corgi lover. I don't know who you are, John Lee,
Corgi
but
lover.
thank you. And his tweet was actually in reply to James Gunn, and he said, "Wild theory. Groot was Dominic Toretto from Fast and Furious in a past life, because in the yet to be made Fast and Furious 10, Dom and the crew go to space and he sacrifices himself for the family, but his consciousness was carried through a cosmic wave, and he was born as Groot with the grimacing face and the laughing face."
That's quite a theory.
Right? I mean, we keep
Hot
talking
take.
about Dom going to space. I mean,
Maybe he's always been in space.
True.
ooh, oh, mm,
And
also
so
true.
the news that broke today, I think it was today, maybe it was yesterday, but Guardians 3 is probably going to give us the Rocket origin story, the devastating Rocket origin story. Maybe Rocket is tied into there something too. Like maybe
Yeah.
in a flashback, like when we were watching Jack Reacher last night, Mike messaged you and me, Joe, and he said, I would love to see Tom Cruise because Cruise drives like this great, I think it's a Charger, maybe, I don't know, it drives a muscle car in Jack
Cool.
Reacher. It's great. And he saw, like, Mike was like, oh, I want to see Cruise in a flashback as like Papa Toretto. But what if like
It's a
Bradley
good move.
Cooper is also in the franchise somewhere, and then he becomes Rocket and Dom becomes Groot, and that's why they're friends, because they were friends in this
Damn.
universe too.
Damn.
That could be interesting.
Mind blown.
I do like to think about like who could join this franchise at this point. What actor or actress could like actually become ingratiated within this family?
There's no stoppage of anything.
Anybody's possible. It's just a fun little like mind exercise.
Who's your number one? Who's your Barbie dream car of actors joining the franchise? That's the last question we'll ask you tonight. Who is your ideal, if you could get any one actor or actress to join this franchise, or a director, what's your dream cast or your dream director?
This is very
And Joe, we've never talked about this either. Do you have someone, like, we talked about Tarantino doing one, but like I don't know if he's the number one of the bullet. Like, is there somebody that you'd want to see in the
We just talked about this. Not who would be an actor in it. We always talk about that, but we just talked about who would be a director.
I know we talked about that, but I mean, in terms of like, if there's one actor, I mean, for a while it was Nicolas Cage. I don't know that I want Nicolas Cage in there anymore. Like, I've really soured on him since that last movie that we did. But man, oh man,
I've listed so many, like Zeph,
Yeah.
heartthrobby boys like that.
I'll just say, just to keep it simple, I'll just say Gal Gadot again.
That would be good. I would be fine with like a John Bernthal.
Oh,
like,
okay.
That'd be nice.
yeah, like I'm always fine with John Bernthal. Whenever he pops up in something, I'm pleased. So I mean, that's going against my like cast brown people ethos from before. So I would also say, like as a backup, I would also say Golshifteh Farahani. It's a great actress, and she's going to be in that Extraction movie with Chris Hemsworth, and so she's done a lot of action stuff before.
Oh, and she was the girlfriend in Patterson.
Yes, she was the girlfriend, the wife in Patterson.
Wife
Yeah,
in Patterson. Yeah, she's wonderful.
yeah, she's great.
All
So
right.
I could see her, slipping behind a car.
Very cool. Well, Roxana, thank you so much for joining us for this.
Yes, thank
surprise
you.
episode.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on.
We are eternally grateful for your participation, all your wonderful thoughts. I feel like you have given us a lot to think about tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Kate broke our brain. I feel like you haven't broken our brain, but you've given us a lot to chew on. And I'm very excited, and I'm glad that you were here. And now you're officially part of the family. And welcome to the family, Dominic Toretto.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Please leave me a spot at the head of the table.
Of course.
You
Is there
will.
anywhere that you want people who listen to the show to find you on Twitter, on anywhere else, anywhere that you write? We mentioned Pajiba and AV Club, but anywhere that you want people to find you online?
Sure. Yeah, you could follow me on Twitter. It's Roxana, ROXANA _Hadadi, HADADI. And I write for a lot of various places, Pajiba, AV Club, RogerEbert.com, just a lot of places on the internet. So, check it out. You could look, I feel like the easiest place is just look me up on Rotten Tomatoes, and then you could find a lot of my reviews there.
Oh, you're a Rotten Tomatoes reviewer too. Okay.
Cool.
Thank you so much. On Friday, our next episode, you and I are talking about My Cousin Vinny, which is
Nice.
kind of a car movie, kind of not a car movie, but we're still
Kind
talking
of
about
not a
it
car
tonight.
movie. Yes, but I'm excited about it anyways.
For all things Too Fast, Too Forever, you go to cageclub.me, facebook.com/TooFastTooForever, or at Too Fast, Too Forever on Twitter and Instagram. Email us, family@cageclub.me. Please leave us a nice review on iTunes. Please check out our Patreon page at toofasttooforever.com. Come back next time on Friday for my cousin Vinny. Come back next week for 2 more episodes. And just, send us an email, say hi, family@cageclub.me. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe, too.
And that was Roxana Hadadi, and we'll see you next time right here on Too Fast, Too Forever. Peace out, you anus
piecers.